Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. And what a morning it is. The Orioles are your AL East defending champions. The 100-win Baltimore Orioles are the AL's #1 seed, earning the first round bye, and boy, do they need it to get that pitching staff rested and up and running. Before we get into that, I want to let you know the Bat Around is brought to you by the Green Turtle Canton Crossing, which is celebrating a grand opening tomorrow. Ravens Super Bowl champion Kadri Ismail will be there from 1 to 2 p.m., showing off his ring and taking pictures with fans, plus great specials, and watch the games all day long at the all-new Green Turtle at Canton Crossing. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. That was the least concerned I have ever been with a loss, I think, in my entire life.
There was no reason to watch.
Well, I was at
frankly.
the restaurant. We have a big event up at Independent Brewing Company. 50% of the proceeds go towards oh my gosh, I can't remember the charity, but it goes towards charity.
It's a good cause.
We're having a cornhole tournament, First Home Mortgage. We're having a cornhole tournament up at Independent Brewing Company today. If you can't make it to Guilford Brewery, and if you can make it to Guilford Brewery,
where is Guilford Brewery?
I
have no idea.
Guilford Brewery is one of our sponsors, and
I guess I should know then.
And
I don't know.
Boy, you are putting me on the spot, man.
Sorry.
Or maybe it's not one of our sponsors anymore.
It used to be. At some point it was. Some point they were.
Oh, it's Station North. That's actually where the next Tyus Bowser show.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Station North. If you make it up to Guilford Brewery on Tuesday, October 3rd for the Tyus Bowser show in Station North. Tonight, this afternoon from 1 o'clock, I believe, to 4 p.m., I will be up at Independent Brewing Company throwing some bags at some boards, trying to get them in some holes.
The Main Street one, right? We're talking about Bel Air now. Okay.
I believe there's going to be 10 to 12 boards. There's a lot of teams.
Wow.
You can come up and register. It's $20. Your first drink's on us. Come up and say hello and have some fun, have some beers.
There you go.
And
have some
beers, toss some bags.
From Wisconsin.
Right? Have some beers, toss some bags. All right? But what was the point of that?
That the Orioles did some great things.
Oh, yeah. So I worked at the restaurant last night
so
that I wouldn't have to work tonight so that I could be at the Independent Brewing Company event that's sponsored by my mortgage company. The mortgage company.
The one he owns,
Dave Waters' mortgage company, First Home Mortgage, today. That's where I will be. But more importantly, the Orioles are the AL East Division champions. Man, it was awesome. It was awesome, right? So I went to the game on Wednesday with my best friend Adam. It was the first game he went to all year.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, because his second daughter was born on St. Patrick's Day, and so he's been baby daddy for the last 6 months. So with a 10-year-old daughter and a now 6-month-old daughter, he has had very little time for anything but work and family stuff.
Sure.
So we made it the point to go to the game on Wednesday, and the Orioles won. They won a ball game, but Tampa Bay also won, so the Orioles didn't clinch that night. The next night, I knew they were winning. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, even though they only won 2-0 on Thursday night, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Orioles were going to win that ball game. It was too hyped. It was too hyped for them not to, right? They're celebrating Brooks Robinson. It's a packed house. They announced the 30-year lease agreement, or as now we know it, a memorandum of understanding. We'll get into that in a little bit. They announced the new 30-year lease with Camden Yards. Too many things. Everything's coming up Millhouse. Everything's coming up Orioles. It was too much for them not to win that ball game.
Yeah.
So the Orioles clinch. I felt like the celebration was awesome, but it was toned down compared to the one where they got into the postseason.
I wasn't that impressed by it, actually. Yeah.
The guys were kind of like, all right, we just did this.
We've been here. Yeah.
We already knew we were in the postseason, and yeah, we had to play our butts off to win this division. But you almost got the feeling that it was a formality.
Well, and that's honestly kind of the way I felt. usually I love division championships when they're surprising, where it's like
Yeah.
where the Ravens, for example, a few years ago when they kind of trailed a little bit all season and then they came out with the division championship. That stuff is fun, where it's
Yeah.
like you're, for example, you're playing the Bengals or something for a division championship in game 17 of the year. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And this one, it's been since really mid-August where I've felt that this is the probability.
Yeah.
This is the most likely thing that's going to happen.
Oh my gosh. So everybody that knows me as the baseball guy, right? Everybody knows that about me. My mom on National Sons Day posted, because Brooks Robinson, I believe he passed on National Sons Day. And we're going to talk about Brooks here in a minute also. We are not going to bury the lead here. Well, it's hard. There's a few leads here. It's been a big week in Baltimore Orioles
of course,
baseball. She posted on Facebook, "Happy National Sons Day to the other Mr. Baseball, my son." She didn't even mention my name. She referred to me as Mr. Baseball.
Mr. Baseball.
So that's how people know me. I'm the baseball guy. I'm the Orioles.
Well, check out your outfit right now. People can tell.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're wearing those.
I have to.
I do like that hoodie.
I have to wear it this week.
I'm going to that event also. Got a rep. They're the best team in the American League. They're one of the top 2 or 3
If
teams
there's
in all
any
baseball.
time to wear Orioles gear, it's right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Abso-friggin-lutely. So I'm getting text messages from everybody. One of my good friends who I haven't heard from in a really long time, he texted me and he was like, "Oh man, how great!" Because he and I bond over baseball. He's like, "How great is this? It's the best feeling ever. How pumped are you right now?" And everybody asked me, "Are you crying?" I shed some tears. Are you crying? I didn't. I got choked up when they clinched the postseason. Again, winning the division to me, it was. I'm not going to say it was a formality, but it was. The expectations became, like you said, sometime in August, the expectation became win this division or bust, right?
Yeah, that's the way I felt. And when they clinched the playoff berth, I said, okay, this is great. I don't really need the division. It's fine. This is what rebuilds are supposed to do, is get you back into the playoffs, and that's what they did. But then again, I also thought after I said that, I was like, well, you have a team that's probably going to win 100-plus games. How can you not win the division if you win 100-plus games?
Right. You. And the fact that you've been in first place since the middle of July, you've been either in first place or tied for a share of first place since the middle of July.
Right.
To not finish it out would be a disappointment.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you're looking at the season as a disappointment if they don't win the division. But let's be realistic here. To lead the division for 2.5 months and not close it out is a disappointment.
Yeah, it would have been. And the Rays got really close for about a second. They were tied at one point.
The thing with the Rays, man, is the injuries.
It killed them.
At the end of the day, and they're still playing good baseball.
They are.
They got bum rushed last night by Toronto.
Yeah.
But Tampa Bay has literally nothing to play
They're mailing it in right now. Yeah.
Tampa Bay, the Orioles, and the Twins have nothing to play for. It's weird because the Twins have the worst record in the American League of any playoff team, and they have nothing to play for.
Right.
Meanwhile, out west, oh my gosh, I broke down what it's going to take for these teams to make the playoffs. We're going to talk about that after the payoff pitch around the league today. But it's a madhouse out in the west. But the Orioles, Rays, and Twins are locked into their postseason spots.
Yeah.
There's nothing to play for except pride, right? And the Orioles, if they win their last 2 games and the Dodgers lose both of them, the Orioles will have the second best record in baseball. And therefore, if the Braves don't make the World Series, the Orioles have home field advantage. I guess it's based on record, not seeding, because it
is, I believe.
Oh,
yes.
You're right. The Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to won their division. So either way.
Decidedly, by the way. The Dodgers were a team that everyone kind of had question marks around because, okay, they don't have Cody Bellinger anymore. Walker Buehler wasn't going to pitch much this year. Clayton Kershaw's on the end of his career. Like, there were huge question marks about this team.
They had no third baseman and no shortstop.
I mean, and they just went off and got arguably better.
They signed J.D. Martinez for $11 million. After last night, he has 33 home runs and 103 ribeye steaks.
One of the best designated hitters in the National League.
I wanted him so bad.
Oh, I did too. I did too.
$11 million.
Yeah.
And he's going to he may re-sign with the Dodgers. That season he put up, that's his best season in 3 or 4 years.
It is. We were pounding on the table for J.D. Martinez all offseason. And
$11 million. And look, the Orioles could have offered him $13 million, and he still would have signed with the Dodgers.
Sure.
Especially with that wall in left field.
And nobody expected this.
Right.
I mean, nobody expected 100 games.
Yeah, 100 games.
100 wins is what I mean.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about
Sorry,
100 RBI season.
To clarify, no, nobody expected a 100-win season. You might have thought, hey, the Orioles are going to be a wild card team this year. They're going to be good. But then, clearly in June, we could see that things were much better than we had initially thought.
I predicted 89 wins for this team if everything went right, and I undersold them by at least 11 wins.
Would that have gotten them a wild card?
Right now, the AL West leader is the Texas Rangers by a game over Houston.
Okay.
And they have 89 wins.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we'll come down to the wire, probably.
They have 89 wins. Toronto has 89 wins.
Okay.
Houston has 88, and Seattle has 87.
Okay.
So 89 wins is probably going to get the third wild card spot. So,
Interesting.
So 89 wins, and then it would come down to season record. And this is whole convoluted thing that I have broken down in the notes. I think I broke it down after I sent you the notes.
Okay.
But maybe not. Maybe I did it before I sent you the notes is what I meant there. But it's a whole thing that we'll get into. But
and then you've got Minnesota, who I don't know if they won last night. They've got 85 wins, I believe.
84.
84, really?
84 wins.
Okay.
84 wins. Did they win last night?
I think they have 85. I'm pretty sure they won last 85. Night. So
either way, they're going to win that division with like 3 or 4 less wins.
Oh, they clinched
than
like half a month ago.
Yeah,
it's unreal.
Yeah, it's
And Cleveland was what? I think 7.5, 8.5 games back, and probably still are. They're not going to.
And they're like 8
close.
games below 500.
Yeah.
So yeah, I undersold the Orioles, and I was one of the people that had a higher projected win total than most for the Orioles at 89. Now,
I said 81. So
Orioles fan statistics. Is that what it is? O's fan stats, whatever, on Twitter projected them to win, to either be in first or second place way back in February.
Wow,
he was right. But what an accomplishment for this team. And getting back to the point of the story, everybody's asking me, Paul, are you crying? No, I didn't cry. And here's why. One, at a certain point, I began to expect them to win this division.
I agree.
So anything less would have been uncivilized. Do you remember those Charles Barkley commercials in the 90s?
Yes, I've seen them.
Yeah,
YouTube is a great place.
Yeah, so anything less would have been a disappointment. I hate to say that because nothing about this season has been a disappointment.
No.
Nothing about this season has been negative, except for me, if you ask certain people. But I've seen division winners. I remember that the 97 team is still always going to hold that spot in my heart. That 97 team, they won 98 games. They were the best team I'd ever seen until this year. And the reason that they hold a special place in my heart, that team was expected to do that.
Yeah.
They had 4 future Hall of Famers on that team and Rafael Palmeiro, who, let's face it, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
He should be.
They had all those guys. That team was wildly talented.
Right.
To win 98 games, to be the best team in baseball for 5.5 months, to go wire to wire. That team was special. They were supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And then they fell short, didn't get to the World Series. They lost in the ALCS in just one of the most devastating postseason series of all time. When you look at going up against Cleveland, wasting 2. Mike Mussina's 1997 ALCS should go down in the history books as one of the best individual performances of all time. 15 innings pitched, 25 strikeouts, 1 earned run allowed, and he lost both of his starts. They lost both of his starts.
Yeah.
I think he lost one of them like 2-1 and the other one 1-0. That was a devastating series. The 2014 team, we watched them. That was a team where they were good the first half. The second half, they were gangbusters.
Lights out, yeah.
And you knew every single night that they were going to win.
Yeah.
Every single night. And then they get into the postseason, no Manny Machado, no Chris Davis, no Matt Wieters, and they sweep the Detroit Tigers, who started Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, and David Price. 3 Cy Young Award winners in a row, and the Orioles
2 Hall of
sweep them,
Famers.
right?
Yeah.
So then you're thinking, all right, Kansas City took care of the Angels. The Angels had the most wins in the American League that year. They had 98. The Orioles had 96. We don't have to deal with the Angels. The Orioles are going to the World Series. Nope, they get swept 4-0 in the ALCS, and they get outscored by a total of 6 runs in those 4 games.
Yeah.
And no wins to show for it. They don't make it. Not to mention the 1996 team gets to the. I remember they were 52-52 through 104 games. And then they went on to win 88 games that year, and they won the wild card. Because that team, they had like a 5.5 team ERA, but they scored 960 runs. It was stupid how good they were offensively. And they go in there, and they beat the defending American League champions in the division series, the Cleveland Indians at the time, and then they go to New York. And Tony Tarasco, Jeffrey Mayer happens in New York. The Orioles split the first 2 games in New York, and they should have come home up 2-0. And I still believe without Jeffrey Mayer's interference, that's a completely different series. They end up losing that series 4-2. They should have come home up 2-0. They should have come home up 2-0 with 3 games in Baltimore and an opportunity to win at home. They end up losing 4-2, and that's it. 2014, swept in the ALCS. The whole point of this long rant is I've seen teams win the division. Yeah. I've seen teams get to the ALCS. I've never seen a team get to the World Series. This team won 100 games. I've expected them to win the division for a month and a half now. Yeah. So this to me was step 1 was awesome. I got choked up when they clinched the postseason. This to me is just step 2. And then the next is step 3, winning the ALDS, getting to the ALCS. When they surpass step 4, when they win the ALCS, your boy's gonna cry a river.
Sure. I mean that'll be really different. I agree with you. I mean this for a while has felt like a formality, and then you go into Boston and you've got a 4-game series, and you say, okay, you need to win 1 game. Yeah. Well, they were going to win 1 game.
They were going to win that first game no matter what.
And right. So, to me, it felt like going into that night when I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this game in totality. I felt there is no way they don't win this game, and there's no way this doesn't end in an AL East victory. And it did, of course. So, to me, it wasn't like, wow, incredible. It was just kind of, okay, that step is passed.
And the team celebrated that way.
They felt that way, yes.
They celebrate. Like, look, they celebrated. Ramon Arias and Natalie Rutschman were under the weather last night.
Massively hungover.
They were so incredibly hungover.
You saw Rutschman in the dugout during last night's game, and he was like, just looked like death.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't have an IV attached to him in the dugout. So, they partied their butts off, but you could tell it was a far more subdued celebration than when they clinched the postseason.
It almost felt more forced in a little bit of a way. Like they didn't run off the field immediately and start throwing things. Like it took a little bit. Like I think Ryan O'Hearn caught the last out at first base, and then everyone started doing it. And it was like it wasn't the energy that we saw the first time, and that's to be expected. I think.
Right, because you already knew that you're in, and you already knew that you're either going to host 3 games, a maximum of 3 games. For the AL wildcard series, or you're going to get a bye and have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Yeah. So you knew that you were getting one of those 2 things. So at this point, it's all right. We've clinched. Now we've clinched the AL East. We've got work to do. Right.
I mean, it feels it's still incomplete. Winning a division is great, but again, when you win 100 games, your expectation is a lot more than that. You expect to, and they're going to win probably more than 100 games, probably 101 and 102. Yeah. And you look at it and you say, okay, the ALDS is a series that if you win 100 games, you win your division, you're so much better than everyone else. You should win the ALDS. You should win. That's just my feeling on it. The ALCS and World Series, whole different story, but the next step, like you said, ALDS, go win that.
Go win that, get to the ALCS, and then win that.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like obviously, it's so hard.
It's really hard, but it's really hard to win 100 games.
That's true.
It's really hard to go from 110 losses in 2021 to 101 or 102 wins in 2020. That's unheard of. It is the biggest turnaround in the history of sport. Yeah, in the history of the sport. To go, no team in baseball has ever gone in a 3-year span from 110 losses to 100 wins. It's incredible.
It's nothing short of a miracle, honestly, because again, this is nobody could have predicted what happened this year, and it's been so publicized, and it's gone a long way now. But there are certain players that have outperformed expectations. Things have just gone every bit the way you wanted them to go. By the way, hot take here: I would sit Rutschman every game that's left in the regular season. I wouldn't play him. As a catcher, just let him sit.
Well, maybe he sits today and plays tomorrow. I don't think they're I don't think they're going to do that.
We'll see.
But it is what a testament to the hard work that this organization has put in, that this team has put in. Yeah. Your AL East division champs, your AL East regular season champs. They should celebrate. They've earned the celebration. It's nice to not have to worry about these last 3 games.
Sure.
They lost 3. I looked up at the TV and it was 2-0 in the 8th, and I was like, oh,
Whatever.
The game doesn't matter.
I mean, I'll watch if I have time today, but I'm not going to go out of my way.
Yeah.
It's going to be probably a punt lineup from Brandon Hyde today anyway. So, which is what it should be, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It should be a punt lineup.
They have. I mean, the players that they have there's no such thing really as a punt.
Okay, so sorry. Let me rephrase. A slightly worse lineup than usual. Yeah. That's.
But
your bench guys.
No, it's a ton of fun. Jon Meoli went out last night in a game that didn't matter, and he gave him 6 1/3 innings of 2. Six and a third innings of 2-hit, 2-run ball. No walks, 4 Ks. He was very good last night, and now you're looking at a postseason rotation where you've got Kyle Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez, and Jon Meoli as your top 3 starters. And
I genuinely, sorry to interrupt you, I genuinely can't believe what Jon Meoli is doing.
Neither can I.
He's so much better coming back from probably the hardest injury to come back from outside maybe an ACL. It's unbelievable.
Look at how long it took Chris Sale to come back.
And he never was the same.
To come back. And Chris Sale's been good the last 6 weeks.
He's been good.
But
he's not like this Cy Young guy he once was.
Look how long it's taken those guys to bounce back. Jon Meoli comes back, and he's just like, hey, guys, I'm awesome.
And the reason I think is because he doesn't rely so much on the secondary stuff like those other guys do. He's just fastball changeup. And last night you saw him just go outside, just hammering the outside part of the zone, especially against righties. And when you're a lefty, it's really, really tough to hit that.
Yeah.
Like it's really, really tough to hit that. So just hammered that part of the zone all night, and it worked. And the 2-run home run, oh well.
He gives.
Oh well.
He's going to give up a home run every now and again. But the fact of the matter is, he's gotten 4 starts now.
Yes, 4 starts.
His ERA is 2.66.
First 2 were okay, but not strikeout heavy. Third one was really good. Oh, I think 8 innings, 7 innings. I can't remember what it was, but it was long.
He's allowed 3 hits in his last 2 starts, covering 13 2/3 innings.
Isn't it more than that? I think it's more.
No,
than
it was 7 1/3, and then it was 6 1/3.
Yeah,
13 2/3 innings. He's allowed 3 hits and 3 runs. He might be better than he's ever been. I
think that's true.
He looks so good right now. He's fresh, and this is so huge for the Orioles.
Oh my God!
The bullpen is nicely rested. Poor friggin' Shintaro Fujinami.
What happened? I'm
celebrates his freaking balls off after each CLINCHMAS. And then has to go take them out the next day.
That's true.
Gives up stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh, he sucks." It's like he's hungover.
They say he's the life of the party too. Like he is the guy. Yeah.
I'd like to hang out with that guy.
For sure.
Have some sake. We're almost to Stan's segment. I do not want to get to Stan's segment without talking about Brooks Robinson. Brooks Robinson passed on Tuesday at the age of 86 after a battle with I'm not sure what the illness was. I just know that he was in poor health, and this was kind of
for a long time, it seems.
And this was kind of expected, apparently, and it caught me by surprise, and I got a little choked up when I read it. Called my dad, and my dad said to me, he goes, "Oh no, what a legend!" And he goes, "Have you ever heard a single person in your life say one negative thing about Brooks Robinson?" And I said, "No." And what a legacy, even beyond baseball. What a legacy to have had that kind of impact on everybody that you've come across with in your over 86 years of life, that nobody has a bad thing to say about you.
Yeah.
And it made me reflect on myself, and it's like, what am I not doing? What can I be better at? Because that's not true of me. There are plenty of people that can say negative things about me. Nobody has a negative word to say about Brooks Robinson. And to me, that's a bigger testament to the man than anything he did on the baseball field. And on the baseball field, he was damn good. Damn good. 1964 AL MVP. He was a 16-time Gold Glove winner, the most among non-pitchers.
Yep.
18-time All-Star. He made 2 All-Star teams a year a couple of times because they used to have 2 All-Star games.
Which was weird.
Yeah. just an absolute incredible baseball player and an even better human being. And I've gotten to meet a lot of people over the last 10 years of working in and around Baltimore sports. I've gotten to meet a lot of people. I never met Brooks. And that breaks my heart. Because it's not even a bucket list thing. It's Brooks Robinson.
Yeah.
And to have heard all the stories about him, to know what he's done, to have seen all the footage from like the 1970 World Series, and to have never met him, it breaks my heart, because I would have liked to have at least shaken his hand and just said, "Hey, Mr. Robinson, thanks for everything, and just gotten to exchange even just pleasantries with him. But we lost a hero, a friend, a legend in Brooks Robinson, and it can't be understated. His impact on this city and on the game of baseball, just an incredible person, a legend of the game. So prayers out to prayers out to Brooks Robinson's family. Our hearts are with them right now, and thank you, Brooks, for everything you brought to the city of Baltimore and everything that you did. I mean, when he played, man, they weren't getting millions of dollars. They had to. I mean, he was going out doing appearances for $25 a pop. And they had to have a job in the off season, and he made this place his home. He raised his family here.
Owings Mills lives in Owings Mills.
Yeah, just an awesome human being, and sad to see him go. And sad that I never got an opportunity to cross paths.
Two quick anecdotes on that. I met Brooks in 2019, I believe. If you remember the game where he was holding up the Trey Mancini for All-Star, I met him that day.
Oh, wow.
He was doing an event at the warehouse, and I went into the warehouse and I met Brooks, and it was awesome. I shook his hand. And one thing people always say about Brooks, and it was absolutely true, is that he makes you feel like you know him. And that's when I met him, it was the exact same thing. He was asking me, like, where do you go to school? All that kind of thing. And it was awesome. Really, really cool. And just the nicest guy you could ever meet. And two, my dad has a friend who one night was at some random event where Brooks Robinson asked him to drive him home. And apparently they talked about baseball for like 45 minutes on the drive home. And it was the coolest experience this guy's like ever had in his life. It was really cool. I got to drive Brooks back to Owings Mills, and just said he was the most nice guy, most cordial guy you could ever meet in your life. So Brooks, he'll be missed for sure.
That's super cool. What an awesome story. And
yeah.
And he still had his wits about him right to the very end. So he knew what was going on. He knew what this team was doing. And it's just and from what we've heard, he loved this team. So it would be only fitting for the Orioles to go capture a World Series championship 40 years after their last one, as Brooks has passed. And when the Orioles won that game on Tuesday 1-0, it was fitting. Gunnar Henderson caught the last pitch that first pitch that Brooks Robinson threw out at the stadium. Gunnar Henderson hit a leadoff home run. That was the run that held up, and the Orioles won that game 1-0. And then on top of that, the major league record for single RBIs in 1-0 victories is held by Brooks Robinson with 10.
Yeah.
And the day that he died, the Orioles went out and won 1-0.
That's
just super cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That stat is unbelievable to me. It's kind of like the time where the Angels did that for Tyler Skaggs, where I can't remember the exact way they did something, but it was kind of
the whole thing was with Tyler Skaggs was like that was God in my opinion.
There was something that happened that was definitely
they
unbelievable.
Won by like the same score as his birthday or something like that.
Yeah, it was something. Yeah,
and it was a combined no hitter. And there was something. His number was 45, and
it was something to do with the number. But
it was like 3 or 4 different things in that game.
Yeah.
That just was like, this is just weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah. We got to get Stan online. While Zach does that, I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department, which is hosting a hiring event on Saturday, October 28th. It will take place at the Public Safety Buildings at 700 East Joppa Road in Towson. Applicants can complete multiple parts of the hiring process, including agility testing, written testing, and the ability to apply on the spot. Members of our specialized units will be in attendance to further discuss career opportunities with the police department. And starting in the afternoon, there will also be a trunk or treat event that is open to the community if you're not interested in joining the BCPD. To find out more, contact our office at 410-887-4584 or 410-887-5521. Joining us on the line now for his weekly segment, it is Stan the Fan. Charles, Stan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Zach. How are you guys doing?
Stan, this is the most carefree show we've had all year. What the Orioles do on the field the last night and the next 2 days doesn't really matter at all, and it's a nice freeing feeling. But before we get into that, Stan, Zach and I were just talking about the late, great Brooks Robinson. Can you talk to us about your encounters with Brooks? I'm sure you've had a few, and his impact on the city and what he means to Baltimore baseball.
Well, I've talked about this quite a bit the last couple of days, and one of the things that comes across is to me about Brooks was that he was not just special to us in Baltimore. We had the opportunity to work with Brooks in 2007. We had done a cover story on Brooks turning 70 years old, and it was a picture of Brooks on the cover of Press Box. This is back when we were a weekly, blowing out the candles on a cake, and it said Brooks at 70. And we got to talking. I did a Q&A with him for the story, and we got to talking because we had just done, about 6 months prior, we had just done the Cal Ripken magazine when he went into the Hall of Fame, and we thought we had an idea that was going to be very lucrative, and Brooks allowed us to do a magazine on him, and one of the key parts of our business concept was you had to have, it wasn't like doing something that the person didn't want you to do. You needed the person to work with you, and they would, if you got rewarded handsomely that the magazine sold, the person would make a lot of money. So Brooks agreed to do it, and we created this magazine called Brooks Robinson, the Original Oriole, and it came out in 2017, and we took it up to collectors shows up in New York, actually in Secaucus, New Jersey. There was somebody that used to put on really big collectible shows, Molly Ann Brasigliano, and we started selling that book and some of our other books there. And it was amazing to me. I know it's a long-winded way to get to Brooks's impact, is how much he was beloved up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we just found out that not only was Brooks a treasure to Baltimore, he was very rare in the sports collecting world and sports appreciation world in terms of how much he was appreciated everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I know Carl Yastrzemski is amazingly popular still up in Boston. I'm sure before he passed away, Stan Musial was incredibly popular in St. Louis. And it was my feeling from talking to people that this was something very unique, that he was appreciated by baseball fans all over the map. He was beloved all over the map. So it's a great loss for our community because we were closest to him. He spent most of his time here in his adult and professional life. But it's a gut punch to baseball fans everywhere, and we were lucky to have him. He was an amazing, amazing human being.
Absolutely. You know, and Stan, my dad used to tell me stories about Brooks in the 1970 World Series and just how great he was as a player, and how great he was as a human being. So when I found out, the first person I called was my dad on Tuesday, and he hadn't heard.
Mm-hmm.
He was working. He was seeing patients at the time, and he took the call while he was seeing a patient. And the first thing he said to me was, "Have you ever heard somebody say a negative word about Brooks Robinson?" I was just talking about this with Zach, and it really speaks to his legacy that the answer to that question is unequivocally no. Nobody's has ever had a bad thing to say about Brooks Robinson. And the amazing thing is, every person that you've heard talk about him that's one of the first things they said. Nobody has ever had a bad word to say about him. And so his impact goes beyond the baseball field, Stan. It's who he was as a person, and it kind of the legacy he's leaving as how you want to live your life and how you need to treat other people. And it's just, it makes me introspect a little bit and want to strive to be better. So the fact that Brooks, just as a human being, can have that impact, and then the Hall of Fame player that he was on the field, just a tremendous loss, as you said, not just for the Baltimore community and for baseball, but for people as a whole, to lose such a special person.
I have to correct you. There was one person that spoke ill of Brooks Robinson. That was our former football writer, Joe Platania.
Mm-hmm.
Joe always remembers the story when he was about 8 years old. He was playing Little League baseball, and and Brooks' son struck him out to end the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked over, and Brooks was, yeah, that his son had struck him out. And he said it always devastated him that Brooks Robinson rooted against him. he was of course kidding, but he was the only person I ever spoke ill of Brooks.
That's so funny. That's quite a story. It's because that would be like the only thing that anybody could say about him is that he cheered for his son and made me feel bad. That's too funny. That's what a great story. Yeah.
We had a story in the magazine, and I'll just tell it real quick.
Sure.
Because I'd like to find this woman. Her name is Susan Skiles, and we did a piece in the magazine about people that named their kids after Brooks. Okay, we found a bunch of people that named their children after Brooks, both boys and girls. And then there was a 3-page story, and then the 4th page was another story written by the same writer, Charlie Vassalaro, about Brooks's biggest fan. And it was this woman who when she was a kid, Brooks Robinson was like her idol. She just idolized Brooks. And her father, I forgot, I reread the story the other day and hadn't even remembered reading it. But Brooks, her father was like an air conditioning repairman or a phone repairman or something like that. And he walked up to his daughter and said, I want you to come on my route today. And she didn't know what she was doing. She went with her dad, and they pull up to the house, and she goes, you know whose house this is? This is Brooks Robinson's house.
Wow.
And they knocked on the door, and Brooks opened the door, took her inside, and ended up, while her father was working on fixing whatever was wrong with his air conditioner or phones, he took her into the kitchen and got her milk and cookies and spent like an hour with her.
That's awesome.
And she always said that was the best day of her life. Okay? Always, her family knew that was the best day of her life. When she was 50 years old, she lost her 5.5-year-old grandson died. I don't know what of, but she went into a deep, dark depression, and her family was, worried about her and wanted her to come back to life, even though it's terrible to lose a grandson. And they somehow reached out to Brooks Robinson to see if he would be kind enough to come to a birthday party of hers. And he couldn't make the birthday party because he had prior commitments, but he ended up taking her to a cystic fibrosis like banquet or something like that. And she sat with him the whole evening and everything. And it really did. It snapped her back to life, being with him again. So there are hundreds of stories like that.
It's
hundreds of stories like that.
Just an incredible impact on just human beings in general. And it's funny, so many people have named their sons Brooks after Brooks Robinson. And my cousin is 37 years old this year. He had his first son, his first child 2 years ago, a son, and he named him Brooks after Brooks Robinson. So it's still happening, 50 plus years, just about 50 years after he finished playing. It is a true testament to the human being that he was.
We had an AP writer in Baltimore who was long gone named Gordon Beard. And Gordon was not particularly a big fan of Reggie's. From the year he played here, he thought he was a bit of a jerk. And he had a famous quote. He goes, up in New York, they name candy bars after star players. Here, we name kids after Brooks Robinson.
Yeah. That's Brooks. I mean, that's the impact that he had. Now, Stan, the impact that he has been lasting with this team. He passes away at 86 years old on Tuesday. He holds the major league record for being the lone RBI in a 1-0 victory with. He's done that. He did that 10 times, the major league record. And then, sure enough, the Orioles' current third baseman at the time, Gunnar Henderson, that same night hits a leadoff home run and goes as the lone RBI in the Orioles' 1-0 victory to put their magic number down to 2 at that point. And then, of course, 2 days later, they clinched the AL East. This team, Stan, from beginning to end this year, has been miraculously talented. They've 100 wins for the first time since 1980, only the 6th time in the history of the franchise. They've now clinched the American League East, the number 1 overall seed in the American League. They get that rest and they get that bye. What is the importance of clinching this 1 seed for this team in particular, given the strain that we saw in the bullpen leading up to this past week of baseball?
Well, I think that's the key thing. It gives them they are a young team, so it's not like they're tired physically.
Mm-hmm.
I think this season did wear them out somewhat mentally.
Yeah.
I think they're a fairly exhausted team, and that bullpen and the whole entire pitching staff. Obviously, the pitching staff is going to have to play a huge part in any long run that the Orioles might go on here. And there's going to be some rearrangements of people's responsibilities and duties. Somebody figures to come out, especially in that first 5-game series that we'll play. Somebody figures to come out of that rotation. Maybe I would say one starter will come out of that rotation. So, and the bullpen, the way that Brandon Hyde is evolving his use of the bullpen minus Felix Bautista has been quite fascinating to watch this week with Tyler Wells coming seemingly out of nowhere to be able to throw as well as he is right now, and CNL Perez becoming more and more important. And we'll see. We'll see whether Felix can miraculously somehow take a mound at some point in time. I don't know. I would think if there's any chance of that happening, we're going to see him pitch either tonight or tomorrow. And I don't know that he's active right now. So while it still seems a long shot, pretty amazing that he's actually thrown a simulated game.
Yeah, it's he's not active right now. We could see an announcement today or tomorrow that the Orioles have activated him just to get him some game action and see what he can do. And this would be the time to do it, Stan. You already have, like you say, he's throwing live bullpens right now. This would be the time to see, hey, can you help us in the postseason? And if not, now instead of figuring it out in the ALDS. So now, look, the last 2 Saturdays, Stan, the Orioles have gone into that in the midst of a 4-game series where they were down 2-0 in that 4-game series. And then 2 weeks ago, it was Grayson Rodriguez with the best start of his career, 8 innings pitched, 5 hits, no runs, no walks, 9 Ks. Then last Saturday, it's Jon Meoli. Takes a no-hitter into the 7th inning. He pitches into the 8th, gives up just the 1 hit and the 1 run in that start. And then you fast forward to last night, and in a game that means absolutely nothing, Stan, Jon Meoli goes out there and gives them 6 1/3 innings of 2-hit, 2-run ball with no walks, 4 strikeouts, shuts down a pretty potent Red Sox offense last night. And even though the Orioles lost 3-0, the story there is Jon Meoli looks like he is all the way back. Has he cemented himself as the number 3 starter on this team in the postseason?
I'm not 100% sure of that, but he's sure, because he also is an attractive option out of the bullpen in certain situations. But I would think it looks like he is pretty much, ready to go. I just want to pump the brakes on Jon Meoli, though. We're not talking about Jim Palmer here.
Sure.
We're not talking about Mike Mussina. In 374 innings as a major league pitcher, Jon Meoli has pitched to a 3.75 ERA, which in today's world is it's good. It's not great, but it's good. He's given up 69 home runs. That's a home run every 5.42 innings.
That's true.
And you saw in his games, he's given up 4 home runs in 23 innings, which is 1 every 6 innings, just under 1 every 6 innings. He's a guy that there's no question in a regular season he would be certainly in the starting rotation every turn around right now. It's just his propensity for home runs in the postseason. If it rears its ugly head and he gives up 2 in a game, and you're going up against Spencer Strider or Framber Valdez, it's just something to be concerned with, in my opinion. But it's been a miraculous comeback. He's pitched as well as I've ever seen him pitch right now, except the strikeouts. He's in 23 innings, he struck out 10 and walked only 4. But when he was really going, he really struck out a fair amount of players.
Yeah, you would see anywhere from 6 to 12 in a given game
Yeah.
for Jon Means. He hasn't
Yeah.
come really close to those numbers yet, but which speaks to him pitching to a lot of contact, right? So I can see the nerves there with he could be prone to give up the long ball, and he has been throughout his career.
You look at the two most dangerous teams we can potentially face in the World Series are the Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves.
Right.
And they both scored over 900 runs. The Orioles have scored 800 runs.
Right.
So you don't want to be giving up a 2 or 3 run homer to J.D. Martinez or Freddie Freeman or Matt Olson, Sean Murphy. You really got to try and keep the ball in the ballpark against those two teams if we're fortunate enough to get that deep. And I think our chances of getting that deep are pretty good.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I have in the notes for you, Stan, is, first and foremost, the Orioles are going to get that bye. So a lot of their guys are being rested right now, especially after the celebration from Thursday night. I don't expect to see too representative of a lineup these last 2 days. And then they're going to have essentially 6 days off or 5 days off. Do you worry about a letdown with this group, or is it more good than bad that they're going to be able to get 5 days to kind of lick their wounds and come back and be as fresh as possible for the postseason?
That's something that would be cute and glitchy for me to come up with something to say about that. We're not going to know. The Atlanta Braves had that same bye last week, and chances are they were the best team in the National League last year, but they got rolled over by the Phillies. We're not going to know really whether this really benefits them overall until they come at it. There's certainly a danger of facing a team, like Toronto or something that gets ahead of steam started, and now we got to jump back into action, and it's in the realm of possibility that we could meet that same type of fate. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's an automatic that it's a benefit. What would be a benefit would be 2 or 3 days off, but 5 or 6 days off, the whole week. But I'm sure that Brandon Hyde's going to have some simulated games going on and, things to keep them sharp in their preparation for playing, next Saturday.
Yeah, I think that he's got a good finger on the pulse of this team, and he's going to have them prepared as they can be for the postseason run here. And assuming there is no letdown, and let's say the Orioles do get past the ALDS, Stan, what is your confidence in this team that they can make a run to the World Series? Once they get there, I don't care who they're playing, Stan, they're there, and then all bets are off once you're in that World Series. What is your confidence level that no matter who they face, they can get there?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that gives me great confidence right now is that Kyle Bradish is pitching about as well as anybody in baseball right now. He may not have the reputation that some other people have, but he is turned in right in front of our eyes this year to a bona fide ace-type pitcher.
Yep.
I don't know what that means for the rest of his career, but I can tell you right now his confidence level is exceedingly high. And that's great to have. And they also have Grayson Rodriguez, who what we saw 2 weeks ago, or last Saturday in that game against Tampa was just really very, very special. We're also seeing what we're seeing from Means. Kyle Gibson has whatever he needed to figure out. I think he's part of this equation as well. And they've either got Gibson or Kramer, who will probably pick up a long man's, jacket over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we talk about this every week the last few weeks, Dan, and it's because there's knee-jerk reactions, right? Kyle Gibson goes out and gives up 7 runs in 4 in the third innings, and you're like, oh, man, he sucks. He can't be in the Orioles rotation. Then he goes out a couple starts in a row, gets into the 7th and 8th innings, giving up 3 runs or less, and you're like, oh, well, maybe. Dean Kramer goes out that Friday night against the Guardians when the Orioles desperately needed length out of him, and he doesn't get out of the 4th inning. And he gives up 5 or 6 runs, and then he comes out in his most recent start and dominates for 6 innings. It's going to be one of those two that's going to be the fourth starter if they need one in the wild card series, and the other one's likely going to the bullpen. Which one of them do you think is going to be penciled in? To me, it's got to be Gibbons because he's a veteran, and he seems to have that dig deep mentality where when his back's against the wall and the Orioles need a big start out of him, he comes through.
Yeah, I know this is not going to happen, what I'm going to say. To me, the guy that I would put in that role as the long man would be this year would be Grayson Rodriguez, because I think he is capable of being a game changer in the fourth, fifth, sixth innings.
I can see that.
Thinking he can do that, and he can do that twice in a 5-game series. Whereas a starter, and I know wins are precious, he can do that once, but who's he going to be matched up against? He may be matched up against Christian Javier or Javier Valdez or Kevin Gausman. Whereas if he comes in a game where you really need somebody, and this is what the Tampa did with the young pitcher in 2008 when they used David Price that way in the postseason. But it's not going to happen because he's their alpha dog, so to speak. So my gut feeling, it is really a coin flip when you talk about what Gibson and Kramer bring. I just think maybe Kramer would be capable of doing what I'm suggesting Grayson is. I don't know about Kyle Gibson coming out of the pen.
Right.
So my gut would be that Kramer would be the movable piece.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my head is also. Even though in his 3 postseason appearances, Kyle Gibson's pitched out of the bullpen, I think that Brandon Hyde trusts him as a veteran starter to go in there and get him 5 quality innings, and then would bring Dean Kramer in to kind of bridge the gap. With that in mind, do you anticipate either Cole Irvin or Jack Flaherty being in the postseason bullpen to start?
I'll tell you, after last night, I watched Shintaro Fujinami, and it was a very interesting acquisition, and I won't say for the most part it was successful. There were moments it was very successful. I don't know how you can have Shintaro on your postseason roster.
Right.
I really don't. To me, he pitched his way out of that. That inning was so laborious and ugly when he came in last night, that I'm just projecting that, Flaherty or Cole Irvin will be on the team over him.
Now, what I will say about Fujinami, Stan, is that his last 2 bad outings have come the day directly following the Orioles' postseason celebrations. Right, like they clinched the postseason, and then he has to come out the next day, and we know that he was the life of the party during the first celebration. Then they have the other celebration. I didn't hear about him being the life of the party, but he partied his butt off when they clinched the division. Then he has to come out again and pitch. And I'm not saying that it's an excuse, but I think there has to be something to be said for being hungover and pitching in a Major League Baseball game.
But do you really want to have somebody in postseason when you might clinch 1 or 2 more times
that's
on
true.
Your roster that's incapable of pitching?
That's true.
I hear you. We're being facetious a little bit.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I'm very surprised. We talked about this 3 weeks ago when I threw out the idea of Flaherty going to the pen, and about 2 days later they used him out of the pen, and then there's been crickets. There's been no usage of him. Whatsoever.
Well, I think writing's on the wall with him.
I don't know what how that bodes for his position on the postseason roster. I always like having one guy in the postseason that could come in and give you 3 to 4 innings. If you needed, if you absolutely had to, because when you run out of those 1-inning guys and then there's nobody left, it really gets a little dicey in the postseason.
Well,
I'm not saying Jack has done what would make you feel comfortable in those games, but I think given his history, he's got the possibility of doing something like that.
Well, I'll tell you, Stan, I'm pretty confident in what this bullpen can do in the postseason because you're going to have potentially 5 guys in who were starters. That when you're looking at DL Hall, Tyler Wells, probably Dean Kramer, Jack Flaherty, and potentially Cole Irvin that can come in long relief in the bullpen. You've got a ton of guys who can really go down. And that's before you talk about Perez and Coulombe and Webb and Cano. I think this bullpen can be a real strength for the Orioles in the postseason. And what Tyler Wells and DL Hall have done down the stretch here has been nothing short of phenomenal. They've really picked up some big innings for the Orioles out of that pen in the last week or two.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about DL Hall and Tyler Wells and the bullpen. That's where I saw both of them. And, again, it's interesting, by the way, the Boston Red Sox have a Tyler Wells on their roster, and his name is Garrett Whitlock.
Yeah.
They sort of desperately want him to be a starter because they're short on starters. But he's got the same problem Wells has, which is he's just not built to be a starter and go, those long outings, 75, 85. But you put him in for 30 pitches for 1 or 2 innings, he's really tough. And I think the same with Tyler Wells.
Yeah,
it wasn't a question. It wasn't a question that I had about Wells' ability to compete as a starter or be effective as a starter, because in today's game, starters are 5 2/3, 6 1/3, most. But Tyler Wells proved to me that he's not meant to be a starting pitcher, and I think his role is in this type of situation, and I think the Orioles carefully gauged that, and they brought both Hall and Wells in kind of at the right time, brought them up and started using them,
Yeah, he's looked every bit the part coming out of that bullpen since he's been brought back up, and when the Orioles desperately needed him to. Stan, before we let you go, since you've been on the phone with us, the Orioles have announced that Gunnar Henderson is their 2023 most valuable Oriole. What are your thoughts on that, and did you vote for him as such as well?
I voted for Gunnar Henderson second. I voted for Felix Bautista as my most valuable Oriole.
Okay.
And I certainly see the case that can be made for Gunnar Henderson, of course. But to me, as great as he was at times during the season, Santander and him have almost identical record, stats this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I could have seen Santander being that, and Glenn convinced me, and I voted for Kyle Bradish third on my ballot. So Glenn opened my eyes to how important he began to be in that second half of the season, that every fourth day or fifth day, you just had a guy that was shutting down the opposition.
Yeah.
That's hugely important, but I certainly have no problem with Gunnar Henderson getting the nod.
Yep.
Just interesting, the club 2 years in a row been a rookie that's won the most valuable Oriole.
Yeah, it shows just how far they've come, how big that I mean, and the number one overall prospect in baseball 3 years in a row, the minor league player of the year 2 years in a row in Gunnar Henderson, and now Jackson Holliday. This team is built to win for a good bit here, Stan. It's an exciting time in Baltimore for sure.
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you got coming up this week?
I think I'm talking to Ross and Luke about moving our Monday Zoom to Tuesday because of the Brooks Robinson Memorial on Monday.
Yeah.
And the travel plans of some of the people I wanted to get on that Zoom. I think it'll be easier to get people on Tuesday. And I don't have anything yet lined up. I'm trying to get somebody from the University of Maryland football program to talk to us on Wednesday or Thursday next week.
Okay, well, we will stay.
But I got a new column up as of yesterday on Brooks Robinson at PressBoxOnline.com, and I'm pretty proud of what I wrote and how it's presented.
We'll be sure to go read it. I didn't realize you put up the article. I'll go check that out today, Stan. Thanks so much. Really great segment with you today, and enjoy the rest of the weekend, all right?
All right, you two guys.
All right, see you, Stan. That was Stan the Fan, Charles, who has changed up the format for his weekly shows. Now, every Monday at 6 p.m., Stan will be joined by former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley and PressBox's managing editor Luke Jackson to break down the latest with the Birds. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein will chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, the baseball guys were joined by former Orioles executive Dan Duquette. Then Stan chatted with Maryland five-star CEO Jeff Newman and Fairhill Organizing Committee Chairman Michael Hankin about the third upcoming edition of the event. You can watch the shows live on Facebook.com/PressBox or find them the next day at PressBoxOnline.com/video and YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. I'm going to make an executive decision. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back in, the payoff pitch around the league and Orioles banter. That's next on the Bat Around.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code PressBox23. So bet with the best and use promo code PressBox23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
Gambling problem? Visit helpmygamblingproblem.org. The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 12th at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill, 5506 Hartford Road. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate arts across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Welcome back into the Batter Round, rolling right along here on an awesome Saturday in the Baltimore area.
That was the most I've ever struggled with headphones in my life. I could not get these things. Like, they fold up if you let them fold up, they will fold up during the break. So I don't know if you saw that, but it was real struggle.
Well,
I feel bad about myself now.
You probably should. Folks, do you feel bad about yourself? Are you struggling with your fantasy football team like Zach's struggling with his headphones?
Hey,
and you need help? Lots of help. Pressbox and Live Casino and Hotel have the answer. One lucky winner will receive a private fantasy football consultation with Pressbox fantasy football expert Joe Serpico, with ongoing help throughout the season, including advice on sits and starts, trades, and waiver wire pickups, plus a VIP game day experience at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Sports and Social, with a reserve table and $200 food and beverage credit. To enter, go to PressBoxOnline.com/contest. That's PressBoxOnline.com/contest. You must be 21 or older to enter. Complete rules available at PressBoxOnline.com/contest. I mean, we're into week 4. At what point does somebody need to win that contest?
I guess they're going to have to win it soon. By the way, Pollard Greens, my team in our league, is the only 3-0 team in the league.
Oh, dude,
so I just wanted to shout that out.
I am 3-0 in the Pressbox League. 1-2 in yours and my league. I defeated my wife in fantasy football last week, and it's so funny.
That's a good choice of words, yeah.
Because Laura dominates fantasy football, but
Yeah.
I'm 5-1 lifetime against her in fantasy. They had her coming into the season ranked as my easiest opponent all time.
Interesting.
And I whooped her last week. I'm 0-3 in another league, and I think I'm either 2-1 or 1-2 in my other sleeper league.
I'm 2-1 in my other league. I got destroyed last week to break up the undefeated streak for me. I had 4 undefeated games combined in my 2 leagues, and then lost a game last week. So I was devastated.
My team in the league that I'm 0-3 in is terrible. It's absolutely. I mean, I can't remember. I ended up I just traded A.J. Brown for Kenneth Walker because I had no running backs.
Yeah.
I had no running backs, and the guy offered me the trade. I looked at it. The trade was actually in my favor, and it's like, you got to trade something to get something. Kenneth Walker scored like 5 touchdowns this year, so I took a gamble on him, and I think I have his backup on my bench also. So it was a decent trade. I got to do something. I'm 0-3. I'm the 12 seed right now out of 12 teams. I gotta figure it out.
I'm not a big fantasy football trader because people just try to screw you over. Like, you have people don't offer fair trades at all.
Yeah, people do try to screw you over, and I don't know if it was the same guy who offered me the trade, but he tried to trade me Kevin Bourne for Zay Flowers.
Yikes!
And I was like, no. I don't know if it's the same guy who was like, he accepted this trade. Maybe he'll accept this one too.
People think that you're not gonna know. Like, they'll send you a trade offer, and they're like, oh, he doesn't know enough about football to know this. And it's like, you're dealing with the wrong guy here. Like, we know what we're talking about. There's some people who will just take advantage of other people in the league that just don't know quite as much. I've been in leagues where that's happened before.
I've been in leagues where I was a guy taking advantage. You know what I mean?
Well,
but
I'm not going to say I've never done that.
Look, A.J. Brown hasn't put up the numbers yet this year.
No.
He had a great game last game. But Kenneth Walker, he's the lead back. It's his second year in a row that he's dominating out there.
They run Seahawks just run the ball constantly.
Yeah, and Geno Stone isn't having the year this year that he had last year.
No. Geno Smith. Stone is the.
I'm sorry, Geno Smith. Geno Smith. Thank you. So Kenneth Walker. I know a lot about football. Geno Stone, quarterback of the Seahawks. So I don't hate the trade. I needed to do something, man. My running backs where like I think it's Derrick Henry who has
done
been
nothing.
Not great.
No.
And Gus Edwards. Now Derrick Henry, I've seen him so many times start the first half of the year. Like the first
He usually
6 games,
does.
really
It's rough.
slow, and then he rushes for like 1,500 yards the last 10 games.
Yeah.
So I have confidence in him.
I just don't think it's the same Titans teams. Like they're very. They slowed down compared to what they used to be,
Yeah,
and
well,
Ryan
they-
Tannehill's
they-
just not a good quarterback anymore.
DeAndre Hopkins is your best weapon aside from Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
And he's getting up there. Derrick Henry's the guy that they're going to key in on right now. And,
Yeah.
Tannehill without A.J. Brown and Corey Davis there is not the quarterback that he was when he
Right.
got there. He just doesn't
Right.
have the talent around him. Getting off track here a little bit. It is now time for the payoff pitch around the league. Ryan Mountcastle picked up 2 hits, and John Means allowed 2 runs on 3 hits while pitching into the 7th, but Nick Pivetta was too strong, allowing just 2 hits and no runs while striking out 10 in 7 sensational innings, and Trevor Story ripped a 2-run homer to lead the Red Sox over the Orioles 3-0. Bo Bichette and Vladdy Jr. combined for 7 hits and 6 runs, while Alejandro Kirk, Brandon Belt, and Matt Olson contributed solo shots as the Blue Jays reduced their magic number to 1 for a postseason berth with a resounding 11-4 victory over Tampa Bay. J.P. Crawford hit a grand slam. Josh Rojas and Ty France added solo shots of their own, and 6 Mariners pitchers combined to allow 3 hits, 8 walks, and strike out 12 as Seattle pounded Texas 8-0 to keep their playoff hopes very much alive. Jose Abreu doubled home 2 runs in the 6th, and Jose Urquidy outdueled Zach Gallen with 6 shutout innings to lead the Astros over the D-backs 2-1. The win dropped Houston's playoff magic number to 1 and brought them within 1 game of the Rangers with 2 to go for the AL West crown. With the loss, imagine Arizona's magic number for the playoffs remains at 1. Josh Bell and Jake Berger came through with run-scoring doubles in a 4-run 8th inning, and the Miami bullpen allowed just 4 base runners in 5 1/3 innings as the Marlins dropped their magic number to 1 to clinch a wild-card spot with a 4-3 victory over Pittsburgh. Carlos Santana tripled and doubled, driving in 3, including the walk-off RBI with that 10th inning double as the Brewers handed the Cubs their 4th straight loss, bringing the Northsiders to the brink of elimination. The Reds bashed 6 homers, 3 doubles, and 2 triples, collecting 19 runs on 17 hits in total to stave off elimination against the Cardinals 19-2. Trent Grisham doubled home 2 runs, and Nick Martinez struck out 8 over 5 shutout innings as the Padres picked up their 13th win in 16 games to get back to 500 for the first time since May 11th with a 3-2 win over the White Sox. Despite the hot stretch, the Marlins' victory earlier in the night eliminated San Diego from playoff contention. Bo Naylor and Tyler Freeman each homered to chase Detroit starter Joey Wentz as the Guardians took down the Tigers 7-5. Spencer Torkelson hit his 31st home run in the loss. The Nationals clubbed 5 homers to take down Atlanta 10-6. Michael A. Taylor hit his 21st home run, driving in 2, and Ryan Jeffers collected 3 hits to lead the Twins over the Rockies 7-6. Bobby Witt Jr. hit his 30th home run, driving in 3, and Salvador Perez added 3 hits and 3 ribs as Kansas City smacked the Yankees around 12-5. Jordan Lyles worked 6 innings to pick up his 3rd win of the month after only winning 3 games in the season's first 5 months. Mickey Moniak homered and drove in 2, and Davis Daniels tossed 5 shutout innings in relief to pick up the win as the Angels downed the A's 5-1. Freddie Freeman picked up his 29th homer and 59th double, and J.D. Martinez smacked the 3-run homer to lift the Dodgers over the Giants 6-2. Lance Lynn improved to 7-2 with the Dodgers, allowing 2 runs on 2 hits in 6 innings in the victory. And finally, the Phillies and Mets were rained out. The game will be made up as part of a single-emission doubleheader on Saturday. What's on tap for us here around the league? Zachary Allen Goodman.
By the way, I did not realize the Marlins were 1 game away. Like, this team has just had such a quick and unbelievable turnaround. And
This season's been so Jekyll and Hyde all year.
Yeah, it's been really weird. And they made the playoffs in 2020 in that shortened season. That was very odd. But things...
With like 90% of the roster on COVID.
Just a wild stretch of events for the Marlins. But Jeter's gone and things have turned around, I guess. Tristan McKenzie and the Guardians, they'll take on to be determined and the Tigers. I don't know how it's still to be determined here at 110, but that's the case. 307, Sean Armstrong makes a start, I'm guessing as an opener against Ryu for the Blue Jays. That's the Rays against the Jays at 307 at the Rogers Center. To be determined for the Phillies, Jose Quintana, the lefty for the Mets, 410 in Queens. That is actually going to be a doubleheader today. Phillies and Mets go again. The time is to be determined, and the pitchers are to be determined today for the Phillies and the Mets.
Double duty for TBD.
Lots of TBD. JT Chargoy, I believe I pronounced that correctly, faces off against Quinn Priester at 6:35. Marlins and the Pirates again. The Marlins, as Paul mentioned, 1 game out of a playoff spot. Michael Wacha, Mike Clevenger, Padres, White Sox, 7:10 at Guaranteed Rate Field in Chicago. Clark Schmidt goes for the Yankees. They got destroyed last night. Steven Cruz goes for the Royals, 7:10 at Kauffman Stadium. Carlos Rodon gave up, 8 runs or 6 runs or something crazy in the first inning without getting an out. So fun to watch. Cubs and
money well spent there, Yankees.
Cubs start Jordan Wicks. Eric Lauer goes for the Brewers, 7:10 in Milwaukee. Eric Lauer and Jordan Wicks both lefties on the hill today. Cutter Crawford, Kyle Gibson, Red Sox, and your Baltimore Orioles, 7:15 here in Baltimore. A game that thankfully does not really matter for the Orioles. Connor Phillips, Drew Rom, the former Oriole prospect, Reds and Cardinals, 7:15 at Busch Stadium. Andrew Heaney, the lefty, goes for the Rangers. Luis Castillo, the great righty, goes for the Mariners, 7:15 in Seattle. Jonah Doan makes another start for the Nats. I don't know if
Jonah Doan.
To be completely fair,
Jonah Doan.
I don't.
He belongs in Baltimore.
I don't know if that's the way you say it, but I'm just going to keep saying I love it. Jonah Doan.
Jonah Doan.
Jonah Doan. Spencer Strider is looking for his 20th win of the season. Goes for the Braves.
Wow.
7:20 at Truist Park in Atlanta. Justin Verlander goes for the Astros once again. Merrill Kelly, who's having a really good quiet season for the playoff-bound D-backs. 8:10 at Chase Field. Emilio Pagan goes for the Twins, and to be determined makes his 12th start of the day for the Rockies, 8:10 Coors Field. Clayton Kershaw goes for the Dodgers. Tristan Beck goes for the Giants, 9:05 at Oracle Park. The Giants now Gabe Kaplerless. Athletics and Angels, final game of the night, 9:07. Joe Boyle against to be determined. Joe Boyle only making his 2nd start of the year. That's what we got on tap.
On tap, around
the league. Clayton Kershaw, by the way, 2.4 ERA this year.
Awesome.
He's never going to be bad.
So Spencer Strider, 3.81 ERA, but he's going for 20 wins.
Yes.
I believe.
Not that I care about wins. I don't care. But
yeah, but 20 wins.
It's a milestone.
20 wins is still a big deal because you have to give your team an opportunity to win the games.
And
now,
I think this will be the first of his whole career where he's
he's only been in the league like 3 years.
That's true. It's been short.
Yeah. So actually, I think he was a rookie last year.
No, I think you're right. But last year he also won 17 games or something crazy.
So Spencer Strider, he's going to win 20 games potentially. 274 strikeouts, I believe, leads the majors. He let's see his innings pitched. He's not that. He's 181 and 2/3 innings pitched. The what's his name? Blake Snell is going to win the Cy Young, but
yeah.
Strider's going to get votes. That 3.81 ERA is the one thing that's hurting him. But 20 wins, 274 strikeouts, 180, probably close to 190 innings pitched.
He's crazy good.
He's
good.
He's crazy good.
And he's 24. That's the even more unbelievable thing about Spencer Strider. He's been in the league for 2 years, as you said. He only won 11 games last year. I thought it was more. But his ERA at 2.67 as a rookie, almost won Rookie of the Year. The guy's incredible.
More than a run higher this year, though, with the ERA.
That's true, but I think that's just a bigger sample size.
Logan Webb, 216 innings pitched. He's 11 and 13 with a 3.25 ERA. He's having a hell of a season. Nobody's talking about him because the Giants aren't in the playoffs.
Well, and even compared to Spencer Strider, 5.7 BWAR for Logan Webb and only 3.3 for Spencer Strider. So that's a really good context, too. You see this all the time where guys on worse teams just don't get the recognition they should. Like Shohei Ohtani this year will not, even though he's still the greatest player on the planet, probably the greatest player ever to live, will not get the recognition he should because he's an Angel and didn't go anywhere. That's just, and he's hurt.
What?
Imagine
he gets so much recognition.
Imagine
when he's healthy and he's active and playing, he is all anybody talks about. What do you mean he's not going to get the
Imagine he was a Brave, though. Imagine he was a Yankee. If he
was a Yankee, yeah. If he was a Brave,
he'd get so much more.
People would talk about him, but he would be.
But
he's never going to be just a face in the crowd.
No,
but he
of course not.
More a face in the crowd on the Braves because that team is so stacked from top to bottom.
But it's easy to forget about every Angel. Mike Trout is, one of the greatest players of all time, top 10 probably greatest player of all time. It's easy to forget that Mike Trout missed a lot of the season and didn't do Mike Trout things this year because he's been hurt. And I don't know, the Angels, they kind of fall to the background for me because they're never really that relevant.
Yes,
if he was a Brave,
but Shohei Ohtani does not. Shohei Ohtani gets so much freaking recognition. recognition. He's basically missed the last month of the season, and he's still going to win MVP.
He's probably going to be a Dodger, most likely. And again, then you're going to get publicity like you've never seen for a player.
He already gets it.
I guess.
To say he doesn't get the recognition, that's so absurd to me because I'm not saying that to come down on you.
No, I
don't mean that in a negative sense, but everybody talks about him at nauseum.
Yeah, I mean,
all year,
I guess.
Every year.
It makes me think about, again, if you were on a team in a huge market. Well, I guess Angels are a huge market, but a consistently successful team.
When Shohei Ohtani is healthy and playing every day and batting every day and pitching every fifth day or every sixth day, if you turn on MLB Central and Greg Amsinger is on there, he's essentially rubbing his nipples talking about Shohei Ohtani. It is ridiculous how much Ohtani and Acuna, Greg Amsinger can't help himself. He's got feathers and tassels on, and he's just going nuts over these two guys. It's all anybody talks about.
Acuna, by the way, just stole his 70th base of the season, which is just...
It's stupid. We got to move.
Okay.
We want to talk about the playoff picture here, just so that people are up to date, because there's a lot still unsettled here across Major League Baseball that's going to get settled here in potentially the next 48 hours, because there's a scenario where the Marlins and Mets will have to finish a suspended game in the 9th inning on Monday.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. So in the American League, here's what we know. Baltimore has clinched the East, the AL's top seed, and a first-round bye. Minnesota has clinched the AL Central, the 3 seed, and so they will host the 6 seed for the wild card series. Tampa Bay has clinched the postseason and the top wild card seed, so they will host the 5 seed for the wild card series. Toronto needs just one more win or one Seattle loss to clinch a postseason berth. Here's where it gets tricky. Texas currently leads the AL West by 1 game over Houston. Texas will clinch a playoff berth with a victory on Saturday or Sunday. Seattle will clinch a playoff berth with a sweep of Texas and 1 Houston loss to Arizona.
Wow. Houston
will clinch a playoff berth with a win Saturday or Sunday, but if they and Texas finish with the same record, Houston will win the division by virtue of winning the season series. However, if all 3 teams, Seattle, Houston, and Texas, finish with 89 wins, which is a very real possibility, Seattle would win the West based on combined winning percentage against Texas and Houston, because Texas holds a tiebreaker over Seattle, Seattle holds a tiebreaker over Houston, and Houston holds a tiebreaker over Texas. So the head-to-head season series tiebreaker for deciding the winner of the West if all 3 teams have 89 wins at the end of the season. So again, because Seattle has the highest winning percentage against Texas and Houston compared to Texas against Houston and Seattle, and Houston against Texas and Seattle, Seattle would win the division. And then one of the other 2 teams would win the wild card.
Wow. Okay.
Right? The AL West winner will clinch the 2 seed and the other first-round bye. Seeds 4 and 5 are still up for grabs between Toronto, Houston, Texas, and Seattle. It is a lot.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this. I'd love for Houston to be out of this. I'd love for that.
That is probably the least likely scenario.
It's unlikely. And so the way it is right now, I'm looking at the playoff picture as it is today, which is not how it's going to end up on Sunday, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
Houston would face off against the Twins.
Yeah.
That
whatever.
To me, foregone conclusion that Houston goes to face Texas.
I think the Twins went 4-2 against Houston this year.
Interesting. Well, I mean, again, an 85-win team against what? A 93-win team is Houston, something like that?
No, Houston's got 88 wins.
Oh, that's it? Oh, I thought it was a lot more. Okay.
Texas leads the division by 1 with 89 wins.
Wow, I thought it was a lot more than that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, Texas fell off a cliff there.
I thought, for whatever reason, I thought Texas was like 94, 95. I thought
because they were at one point. They were
really good.
They had the second best record in baseball, and then they made all these trades at the deadline, and then lost 50 games in a row. It was stupid.
Yeah.
Now, as convoluted as that is, let's get to the National League. All right. In the National League, here's what we know. Atlanta has clinched the East, the NL's top seed, and home field advantage through the World Series should they get there. And obviously the first round bye. The Dodgers have clinched the West, the 2 seed in the National League, and the other first round bye. Milwaukee has clinched the 3 seed and will host the 6 seed for the wild card series. Philly has clinched the 4 seed and will host the 5 seed in the wild card series. Arizona, whose magic number is 1, will clinch a postseason berth with a win on Saturday or Sunday. Miami will clinch a playoff berth with a win on Saturday or Sunday. If Arizona and Miami each win one more game apiece, the Cubs and the Reds are eliminated. For the Reds to get into the postseason, Scenario A, and I copy-pasted this. Scenario A, the Reds win all 3 games over the Cardinals, and to get in, the Marlins would need to lose 3 of their remaining 4 games, including the postponed game that will be played Monday, and the Cubs need to lose 1 game against the Brewers, or the Diamondbacks lose all 3 of their weekend games against the Houston Astros, who are still fighting for playoff position as well. The Reds hold a tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks, and the Cubs lose 1 game, or the Marlins lose all 4 games. So again, just to make it more succinct, the Reds need to sweep the Cardinals. The Marlins would have to lose 3 of 4 games, including their postponed game on Monday. And the Cubs would need to lose 1 game against the Brewers, or the Diamondbacks lose all 3 against Houston, and the Cubs lose 1 game, or the Marlins lose all 4 games. That's scenario A for the Reds to get in. A long shot.
Wow.
Scenario B. The Reds win 2 of their games over the Cardinals, and the Marlins would lose all 4 games, and the Cubs would lose 2 or 3 against the Brewers. A long shot, but less of a long shot than the Cubs. For the Cubs to get in, they need to win 2, Marlins lose 3, and Reds lose 1 or 3, or the Cubs win 1, Marlins lose 4, and Reds lose 2. If Miami and Arizona win today or tomorrow, Cubs and Reds are eliminated.
Wow.
It's crazy because...
And that's, again, a kind of a foregone conclusion.
Like a month ago, Arizona was like under 500. And then they got hot. Miami's been up and down, up and down, up and down. And the Cubs, good God. We were so pissed at the Orioles for how poorly they played those first 2 games against Tampa Bay after losing the last 2 games against the Cardinals. And then what they did in Cleveland, those first 2 games.
Yeah.
We were so upset about that. Dude, the Cubs have lost 4 straight games. 5 days ago, they were the 2 seed. They were the number 2 wild card seed. And now they're on the outside looking in, and they need a miracle to get in because they've lost 4 straight games. Now, it sucks. It sucks that they had to play the Braves in a 3-game series. And the Braves, you would think they had nothing to play for because they had already clinched the number 1 seed, the first round bye. But they were still playing for the number 1 overall seed in all of baseball to have home field advantage through the World Series. So they still had something to play for, and they swept the Cubs. The Cubs had an opportunity to win all 3 of those games. One of those games that they lost was because a guy pulled a Ryan McKenna and dropped a fly ball for the 3rd out.
That's true.
In the outfield. So a lot of convolution here, if that's a word.
It's a word.
But what it comes down to, if Arizona and Miami win in the National League, they are in. The Cubs and Reds are out. If the Blue Jays win today or tomorrow, they're the number 2 wild card seed. And then essentially what happens, actually, they aren't guaranteed the number 2 wild card seed, but they are guaranteed a wild card seed. And then it's a crapshoot, really. What the most likely scenario is Texas and Houston with Seattle on the outside looking in. Seattle has to sweep Texas for this to happen.
It's an unreal scenario.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Well,
this is why I was up till 2 a.m.
It's a lot to digest, so I'm not going to act like I remember everything you said. But just by looking at the playoff picture, I would rather, if I'm looking at this from an Orioles perspective, I would rather face the Twins than anyone else, obviously, but I find that unlikely. The fact that the Twins would make it through, if it's like it is today, if the playoff picture ends up like that, the fact that Twins would make it through the Astros and then the Rangers to make it to the Orioles and the ALCS, I find that extremely unlikely. Highly unlikely. So the Orioles right now are going to play either, again, if it is like it is today, Tampa Bay or Toronto.
Yep.
If I'm an Orioles fan, I'm rooting for Toronto all the way because the Orioles haven't played Tampa Bay as well. They won the season series against both, but I would like to see them play the team I feel much more confident in playing, which is Toronto. I just don't think they're as good, regardless of injuries. And Tampa Bay's had a lot of them, we know. I would much rather see the Orioles face off against Toronto.
Well, the Orioles went 10-3 against Toronto, and with the exception of like one outing, they had Kevin Gausman's number this year.
Right.
They played well against Kikuchi. They did well against Bassett.
Yep. They did really well against Bassett.
Yeah,
Except I think there was one Bassett start they got off to a slow start against him, but otherwise they played really well.
And I think
Bassett.
Barrios pitched really well against him. And you're probably looking at
Barrios threw like 6 or 7 no-hit innings, I believe.
So you're probably looking at Gausman, Barrios, and Bassett in those first 3 games.
Or Ryu. Yeah.
I don't think Rio would.
He's not as good as he was, but yeah.
I don't think he'd get a start over Bassett. And he's certainly not getting a start over Gausman or Barrios.
Still has a 3.3 ERA this year. Like he's had a good year.
He's made like 8 starts.
Right, only 3-3 in the year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But all that mess will be decided in the next couple of days, maybe as early as today.
Yeah.
And the whole mess was brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. So go check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Moving on to Orioles banter. We're going to talk about our top 3 O's MVP, and then predict. We're going to have to do this quickly, but predicting the postseason roster. First, I'll go first just because it's in my mind right now. Top 3 O's MVP for me, Gunnar Henderson is number 1.
Yeah.
He's third in the American League in WAR. He could win a Gold Glove as a utility, even though he plays every day. As a rookie, what is he batting? 258 with like a 334 on base percentage, 28 home runs, close to 80 RBIs, 10 stolen bases, almost 10 triples, 28 doubles. It's all off the top of my head. Gunnar Henderson has had a phenomenal season, and he's been that guy he's been that big game performer offensively. When the Orioles needed to come out in a big way, he was at the forefront of it. He was the guy leading the charge. So for me, he's number 1. Number 2 is Felix Bautista. Best reliever, best closer in the game. He's a big reason why the Orioles won 100 games this year.
Sure.
He was absolutely dominant all season long. As good as he was last year, he was that much better this year. Getting hurt, the Orioles still won like 2/3 of their games without him.
Yeah.
But there were times when the bullpen was just defeated.
They really needed him.
And they really needed him down the stretch there. They still clinched the division. They still won 100 games, clinched number 1 seed. But Felix Bautista for me is number 2. And then I go back and forth on this. I'd love to put Bradish in there because he's been so good all season long. I mean, 18 quality starts. He's been a 2.86 ERA, about 170 innings pitched this year. But he pitches every 5th or 6th day. Adley Rutschman for me. This team has not been swept since he got here. They have the 4th best record in all of baseball since May of last year because of Adley Rutschman. He's not as flashy as Gunnar. He's not. His personality is polarizing in like the best kind of way because he's just like a good old boy. He's just like he's just a fun guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just like a nice guy. And he's to me, he's a quiet leader of this team.
Yes.
Whereas Gunnar Henderson is flashy, he's athletic, he's uber talented, and he's fiery. Adley Rutschman is just that guy. He's almost like a Nick Markakis. He just shows up and does his job. Although I think he has. It's hard for me to say this because Nick Markakis, I believe, had fun on the baseball field, but Adley Rutschman, like. He looks like he's having fun.
No doubt.
Whereas Nick Markakis was just super serious all the time.
Sure.
And I'm not going to pretend to know either one of them. You know what I mean? But Adley, for me,
sure.
Without him, this team isn't the AL East division champions. He's a huge part of this for you.
Gunnar number 1, obviously. You said it all. What else can I say? I mean, 28 home runs, on base percentage of 326. Which I'd like for that to be a little higher next year, but the guy tore the cover off the ball all year. He started off slow, got hot, carried the team the whole year. Nothing else you can say about Gunnar. He plays hard. He's just great at everything he does, and he's number 1. He's the Orioles MVP.
He's gonna win. He's gonna get actual MVP votes this year.
Yeah.
And he's going to win an American League MVP at some point.
And he probably will win a Rookie of the Year, which will secure the Orioles a second first-round pick, which is
They'll have 3
fantastic.
picks in the top 33 next year.
Yeah. Competitive balance round being the other one. My number 2, this was tough, but Kyle Bradish is my number 2. Kyle Bradish, there's no way the Orioles are in the place they are without most of these guys. But Kyle Bradish has a 4.8 BWAR. He has an ERA of 2.86. He's won 12 games. The guy he's been unstoppable for the second half of the season, and nobody's been able to put him out of his place. The guy's been unreal and a leader in the starting rotation, and he's only gotten better. he's really only gotten better throughout the entire season. So Kyle Bradish, number 2 for me. Number 3 was tough, but I'm going to go Felix Bautista. Rutschman just doesn't make it. He would be my 4th. My 5th honorable mention would be Ryan O'Hearn. I think Ryan O'Hearn meant so much to this team. Hitting 300 this year. But just to say about Ryan O'Hearn, too, Ryan O'Hearn played a fantastic first base. Just a model first base for me. He's so long and lanky that he's able to get to so many balls that the other guys at first base can't. He's just a big dude. But Ryan O'Hearn was incredible all year.
I disagree defensively.
Really? I thought he was great.
I think he was fine, but I don't think he was a better defensive first baseman than Mountcastle was this year.
I think he is.
I thought Mountcastle was better.
Fair enough.
But that is whatever. I mean, Ryan O'Hearn was a huge part of this team. He's this year's Steve Pierce. He just is.
Absolutely, and hopefully he sticks around for a number of years to come. But to finish my thoughts on Felix Bautista, because he is my number 3, what else can you say about the guy? He throws an incredible splitter, 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He led the team, and every time they needed him, for the most part, he was out there and making the best of a save. And the guy was just reliable all year. He was a rock. Even though they call Yennier Cano the Rock, he was the rock of the bullpen, truly, because he came in and he got it done when you expect him to. So that's really important. They're going to miss him in the playoffs if he's not there, and they said they're running out of time, so I'm not entirely sure that's going to be a thing. It's probably not going to be a thing, and we'll talk about that in a second, I guess, with the roster. But Felix Bautista, number 3.
Yeah, and I believe he only blew one save of more than one run all year.
I think so.
And a number of those saves that he blew, they won the game anyway.
And then one of them in the All-Star game. Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah. But that doesn't count.
Yeah. Grand slam in the All-Star game.
But, no, it was a 3-run homer.
Was it?
Yeah,
okay.
The grand slam was Kyle Tucker for the Astros. But, yeah, now let's move on to predicting the postseason roster. We got to go really quick with this because we got Jon Meoli coming up from the Baltimore Banner at 11:40. We don't got to catch a we got to catch a break.
Yeah, we definitely got to catch a break.
We got to catch a break before that. Postseason roster for me, obviously, I think you're gonna have Mountcastle and O'Hearn for first base / DH. I think it's gonna be Frazier and Westberg at second base. Gunnar for shortstop. Jorge Mateo, I think
he's gonna make it.
I think so.
He's gonna be there
because of his defense and his speed. So that's 6. Obviously, it's gonna be Mullins, Hayes, Santander in the outfield.
Probably Kjerstad. I would think Kjerstad's on there.
You think Kjerstad? Well,
actually, no. Hicks. Hicks is going to make it over Kjerstad.
Aaron Hicks is going to make it. Then you're going to have what's his name? James McCann.
There you go.
So that's 11. You got 2 more position players. Who am I leaving out?
Ramon Arias hasn't been mentioned. I don't know if I would put him on the playoff roster.
I think he's going to make it.
He probably will. Yeah, probably will.
I think he's going to make the postseason roster, and then it's going to come down to Kjerstad or McKenna, right?
If there's enough spots for that. Is there enough spots for that?
They have one more spot.
Okay, so
you can't have more than 13 pitchers.
It's going to be Kjerstad then, because McKenna's not up right now. If they wanted him on the roster, I think he'd be up right now. It's going to be Kjerstad.
Yeah, Kjerstad. And they were just talking about how he has they just talked last night about his freakish power.
You can't have Mateo and McKenna on the same playoff roster.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
You need one speed guy. And Mateo is going to be your speed guy, who's not going to start much in the playoffs. He's just going to come off the bench, and he's going to be like
Jared Dyson.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's your position players right there. It's going to be Bradish, Grayson, and John Means for the rotation, and I think Kyle Gibson gets that other rotation spot if they need a 4th starter. So that's 4 pitchers right there. Obviously, it's going to be DL Hall, Tyler Wells.
Jacob Webb probably makes it.
Jacob Webb, Danny Coulombe. CNL Perez, Yennier Cano, and then
I mean,
who else?
I think you got to leave off Jack Flaherty. Yeah. I think you got to leave him off. Did you mention John Means? I don't think you mentioned.
I mentioned him as
you did. Okay.
Starter.
Okay.
Dean Kramer, I think, is in.
Oh right.
Do you bring up Cole Irvin to pitch out of the bullpen?
No, I'd much rather have Fujinami there. Personally.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know that you can trust Fujinami on the roster.
I can't trust Cole Irvin on the roster either.
Oh. So that you have one more pitcher. I feel like we're leaving somebody out. Who are we leaving out?
Ballman possibly. Maybe Ballman.
Voth has been pitching well down there.
Jorge Lopez is still on the roster, so
he can't make the postseason.
Oh, that's correct. You are correct. I'm looking through and I'm trying to think of any.
It's probably going to be Bauman. I wouldn't hate it if it was Voth. Voth has pitched really well at AAA.
It could. I mean, Brian Baker. It's not going to be Brian Baker.
It can't be.
It can't be Brian Baker.
It absolutely can't be. probably
Even though he's
Bowman.
put together a 3.6 ERA this year somehow, Brian Baker.
That's 'cause he was really good to start the year, and then
Right.
he just fell apart. And he allows a lot of inherited runners to score.
I would prefer it to be Bowman, and he gives you length too. You get the
Yeah.
3 or 4 innings out of Bowman max.
I just would rather have him start a clean inning. I don't want him coming.
I agree with that.
I don't want him coming in with guys on base. We got to catch a break. Want to remind you, today's show brought to you by Pressbox's Glenn Clark Radio, which is a definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. You can watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. If you're not finding a way to listen to Glenn Clark Radio, you just don't want to, and I don't know why, it's awesome. I listen to Glenn Clark Radio at least once or twice a week when I have the opportunity to. And plus, you never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys called up with Orioles legends Bobby Grich, Ken Singleton, and Al Bumbry, among others, to share their memories of Brooks Robinson, plus CBS's Ian Eagle and Charles Davis. You can find those interviews and this week's Tyus Bowser Show with special guest Michael Pierce in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. When we come back in from the Baltimore Banner, Jon Meoli joins us. That's next on the Bat Around.
The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand. Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code PRESSBOX23. So bet with the best and use promo code PRESSBOX23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All electronic tolling is here to stay in Maryland, and DriveEasyMD.com helps you cruise a little easier. We're Maryland's tolling resource, home to Easy Pass, pay-by-plate, and video tolling. It's never been easier to pay your way. DriveEasyMD.com will keep you moving.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to pressboxonline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of Pressbox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 3rd at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports. And don't forget, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Welcome back into the Bat-Around, rolling right along here on a glorious yet gloomy Saturday as the Orioles have clinched the AL's top seed and the American League East with 100 wins, clinching those prizes on Thursday with a 2-0 victory over the Red Sox. I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by the latest edition of Press Box, which is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is he ready to take the Ravens to the next level with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers, 2 of which are hurt right now? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson respectively, and we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. Joining us now from the Baltimore Banner, he is Jon Meoli. Jon, thanks for taking some time for us. How are you, man?
I'm well. What's going on?
Not too much, man. Been a while, but I'm glad that we were finally able to get you back on the show. And perfect timing. You're coming on right after the Orioles clinch the top seed in the American League East, in the American League and the American League East division, crown therefore getting that first round bye. Before we get into that, Jon, and we're going to get into a lot of that today. Brooks Robinson passed away, kind of putting a cloud over what has otherwise been a phenomenal storybook season for the Orioles. I'm sure as an Orioles beat writer in the past, you and Brooks crossed paths a few times. What can you say about Brooks Robinson, the man, and what he meant to this city and this franchise?
Yeah. Unfortunately, never had the chance to meet him, but, just hearing about all the, hearing everyone's Brooks Robinson stories and seeing them shared, you can't take in the volume and the scope of those and not be awed at the impact that he had on this town and the city in this area. I mean, there's not a lot of athletes who resonate with the fan base that honestly they ingratiated themselves with and became a part of. He is a part of the Baltimore community. Everyone has Brooks Robinson stories because he was here and he was available and he was willing to give people his time. I think about it in the context of being a sports writer and everything's about access. When do we have clubhouse access to the players? When is access to the managers or the coaches? Brooks Robinson's whole life was access. He gave the city of Baltimore access to, 60 some years of his life. And he never said no. And he always made people feel special and important. And that's a rare trait these days. I don't think you're going to see that kind of presence ever again.
Yeah, we've been talking all day about how great he was as a player and how much even better he was as a human being than he was as a Hall of Fame baseball player, how ingrained he was in this franchise and in this community, and how nobody's ever had a negative word to say about him. And not many people, myself included, can go through life without somebody saying something bad about them. And I think it really speaks to his character that people felt that way about Brooks Robinson. Certainly a loss, not just for the city of Baltimore and the Baltimore Orioles, but for baseball and the country as a whole. Now, the Orioles, despite that, they went out that night and fittingly won a game 1-0 on a Gunnar Henderson solo home run to lead off the game for the Orioles. And fitting because Brooks Robinson holds a Major League record with 10 times having the sole RBI in a 1-0 victory. So Gunnar Henderson goes out and does the same. The Orioles clinched the division on Thursday, Jon, with a 2-0 win over the Red Sox. And you wrote an article for the Baltimore Banner about how the Orioles really and truly earned this victory. I mean, 2 weeks into the season, Tampa Bay's 13-0, and the Orioles find themselves 6 back in the division, and they've won 93 games. since that point. And it's just a testament to how resilient this team has been, how steady and consistent this team has been. How remarkable is it that this team just 2 years ago lost 110 games. Now they've won 100, and they're the top seed in the American League.
It's crazy to think about. I remember back to this time 2 years ago as they're wrapping up that season, they were just struggling to survive. They were just trying to get by. And, that came down to pitching more often than not. They always had, big leaguers in the lineup. They didn't always have big league defenders, but they had big league hitters most of the time in the lineup, and they couldn't pitch. Brandon Hyde said that. It's not something, that's not my assessment. That's just the reality of the situation. And for it started that off season. They made a lot of shrewd waiver claims, and they remade the bullpen, on the fly. And over the last 2 years, the starting rotation has also improved significantly. And that's the reason, obviously add in Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, and you have a 100-win baseball team. And I don't think there's a lot of, baseball luck involved. This is a really good team. Yeah, they maybe won some games they shouldn't have, but they win close games for a reason. They play the game really well, and they believe in, they have all those intangibles, and that's how you win 100 games.
Yeah, and they've done it recently with the starting pitching. Getting that bye in the first round is huge for this team because now they can line up their rotation and their bullpen any way they want. What it's looking like, John, is that the Orioles are going to line up their rotation with Bradish and Grayson likely in games 1 and 2 next weekend. After what Jon Means has done his last 2 starts, is he cemented as the third starter in the division series for this team?
I think that his freshness is probably going to be the separator there. Having been built up and being able to pitch as deep into games as he can, I think it would be strange to envision a world where like Jon Means is coming into the 5th inning to get like 5 outs of games 1 or 2. I think there are other pitchers who might be rotation candidates who are more equipped than that. So I think it's a combination of Jon Means' success since his return and the fact that it could be super, super valuable to have someone that can go, give you a good 6 in game 3 as kind of combining factors to maybe give him the edge. But, Dean Kramer's been awesome all year. I know he has some starts where, he doesn't have it, but when he has it, he's going to get you deep into the game as well. So I think that, there's a lot of good candidates, and Jon Means might have the edge.
If they go to a game 4 in the wild card in the division series, they're going to need a 4th starter. Is it Kyle Gibson or is it Dean Kramer at this point?
The way I kind of have this gamed out in my head is that like you're probably going to have a reason to go to Dean Kramer earlier than game 4. And I'm not sure that's the case with Kyle Gibson. I think Kyle Gibson, he can get you 6 outs on 13 pitches if you want to, but I don't know when the spot for that is in those first 3 games out of the bullpen. So I feel like, Dean Kramer deserves to start a playoff game. He's been really good all year. I'm just not sure there's an avenue to, getting through 3 games and not needing him first. I think it's probably easier to envision Kyle Gibson being, unused after 3 playoff games and saying, okay, maybe this is your spot.
Well, with that bullpen, we know that there's a potential to be as many as 5 relief pitchers who have starting experience, and you're talking about Tyler Wells, DL Hall, either Dean Kramer or Kyle Gibson, maybe Jack Flaherty, maybe Cole Irvin. The bullpen looks like it's going to be a strength for this team, but no stronger than if they had Felix Bautista. Brendan Hyde said time is running out for Felix Bautista. He's been pitching live bullpens. Is there a chance that we see him today or tomorrow in these last 2 games that really don't mean anything for either team so that they can see whether or not they can use him on a postseason roster? Do you anticipate Felix Bautista pitching for this team in October?
I don't. Personally, I was there for his live VP, whatever day that was, Tuesday or Wednesday. And, it's, it's hard, it's not like I had a radar gun out, but it seemed like he was, I couldn't tell you percentage of what effort he was going at, but I do think it was interesting that I haven't seen him, on the days I've been there, out playing catch with the rest of the relievers like he had been earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The Orioles are being a little close to the vest on what's happening. I understand that, but the reality is he has an injured elbow ligament, and I'm not sure the value of running him out there. Even he's not going to be the Felix Bautista that saved however many games he did. So I'm curious as to the value of bringing him back. So I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, if he's not Felix Bautista, there's really no point. And maybe if rest and rehabilitation can make get his arm back to full strength for next season rather than having to potentially have surgery, maybe that is the best course of action for the Orioles and their bullpen moving forward. We're with Jon Meoli from the Baltimore Banner here. Just another minute or two with John. Now we're talking a little bit about the rotation, and we don't want to put the cart before the horse here. We want to get through the postseason first. But moving into the offseason, the Orioles have the potential, John, to have a really, really good starting rotation just with internal candidates next year. We're pretty sure we're not going to see Jack Flaherty and Kyle Gibson in an Orioles uniform after this season. You're looking at a rotation next year that could line up as Kyle Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez, John Means, Dean Kramer, and Tyler Wells. But do you anticipate the Orioles maybe keeping Wells in the bullpen role, or maybe trading a Dean Kramer and going out and getting a top line starting pitcher for this rotation to go into next season and make another strong run?
I honestly don't. I think this is a situation where, and I've kind of read about this here and there, but not recently, that, it's probably time to check our priors on the whole, like, this team needs pitching thing. Like, you're not going to go out and get a starter that's pitched better recently than, Kyle Bradish or second half Grayson Rodriguez. Those guys, have ERAs that start with 2s in the second half. Dean Kramer was on track to be in that range. I think between John Means and Tyler Wells and DL Hall, Cole Irvin's under control for a while. You have a lot of those candidates. And I don't think the Orioles will, even though they're going to have, a lot of trade capital in terms of the prospect base they built up. The price for one of those pitchers who would maybe be like a nominal upgrade over a Kyle Bradish that we've seen is going to be really high, and they weren't interested in paying that when they didn't know that they had all these guys. So now that they do know and have that impression, I hesitate to think they're going to do that. We went into this offseason thinking they were going to make big moves and use the prospect base they have to add pitching. They didn't. They have been proven right on that. It doesn't mean it's going to be right this offseason, but nothing's happened to make them kind of challenge their priors on that and rethink how they're going to build this team. So it's crazy to think that we're in this position, but we are.
Yeah. This team, they won 100 games without having to get that top starting pitcher. Grayson Rodriguez and Kyle Bradish have looked every bit the part of an ace for this rotation. And then John Means coming back and doing what he's done has been nothing short of miraculous. So I think the Orioles rotation is in a good spot moving forward. They're going to need a number of candidates for that rotation. I think we'll see some fringe signings. But I agree with you, John. I don't know that we should expect a top starting pitcher to be added to this team in the offseason. And before we let you go, Orioles-wise, we were struggling to kind of figure out the Orioles bench for the playoffs. John, do you think it's that Heston Kjerstad is going to be part of this postseason roster?
I haven't broken it down to, I haven't done like the granular look. I think that his power is an asset. I think it's going to be really meaningful to have that coming off the bench. Mm-hmm. I think that the only reason that you would carry him, though, is if you're playing a team with a lot of righties. If there's a team with lefties in the rotation, you're probably not going to use him, and that might put someone like Ryan O'Hearn on the bench to be the first bat off the bench in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's challenging. I mean, I think that there will be a playoff series. If the Orioles play 2, he might be on the roster for one of them, but I think it's going to be very, very matchup dependent because one of those spots is going to go to Jorge Mateo, one of those spots is going to go to James McCann, and then it's what is the overall value and versatility of whoever else is going to be on there. And Aaron Hicks is playing all over the outfield. He's probably going to be there too. And then do you want someone who you might trust in a corner outfield spot, but mostly as a DH, or somebody who can play in 3 infield spots if the game dictates that? I
right.
assume the Orioles would go towards the versatility, but quality is good too.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that front. Before we let you go, John, what do you got coming up for the Baltimore Banner?
Oh gosh, got some interesting stories. I hope. I'm doing some digging on. Gosh, what am I doing? There's a pitcher in the bullpen who I think is going to be an absolute difference maker. Who's not Tyler Wells. I think there's another one, and I'm going to write about that. Hopefully, do some playoff preview stuff. I don't really know. I'm doing a lot. I'm sorry, I don't want to give too much away.
No, I understand.
But it's going to be. I recommend the Baltimore Banner's Orioles coverage to everybody. I think the city's so fortunate to have between the Sun and the Banner, a lot of young and talented baseball writers. Not myself, the actual beat writers, but I think the Sun and the Banner are doing a great job, and the Banner especially. And I think everyone should be locking in as this playoffs start.
Well, as much as I appreciated your newsletter, John, I'm glad to see you back more mainstream here and doing the Baltimore Banner thing. Glad to see you back around the team, and really looking forward to your coverage as the Orioles make hopefully a magical playoff run. Really appreciate you. I know you're busy being a dad on Saturday, so thank you so much for taking the time with us today, and hopefully we'll talk to you again down the line real soon, okay?
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, see you. And that was Jon Meoli from the Baltimore Banner joining us on the program today. It's been a while since we talked to John. Glad to have him back on the program.
I want to say last time we had him, he wasn't working for the Banner yet. Am I correct in that? It's been a while.
He was. I think he was still at the Sun. And I think we had him on when he came out and said that he was going to be leaving the Sun and doing his newsletter.
Right, that's what it was. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I subscribe to his newsletter, but it goes to my old email address. I'm not sure if he still does the newsletter.
No, I don't think he does. I think it's just been since he went to the Banner. But I don't know.
And I hope he didn't take that as a slight, saying as much as I appreciate your newsletter, to have you back in the mainstream of things. Jon Meoli, it was one of the Orioles' best beat writers. It was like the trio was Rock, Dan Connolly, and Jon Meoli. So to have him back writing for the Baltimore Banner, and the Baltimore Banner is fantastic.
Yeah,
they really are.
When I worked for the Ironbirds in 2018, I used to be out by the clubhouse during before work. We would all there was picnic tables out there. We'd all sit out by the clubhouse, and Jon Meoli would be out there almost every day, or at least a couple times a week, interviewing players and doing stuff like that. He's always grinding, always doing his thing.
The first time I met him in person was at an Ironbirds game.
Oh yeah. He was out there all the time, at least back then.
Yeah. So I did play golf with him once, and that was
nice.
Cool. He's a good golfer. Good golfer.
Yeah, he's like an 11 handicap. I think it's been in his Twitter bio for a long time.
Oh really?
So, yeah.
Yeah. He has
his X bio. Sorry, his X bio.
His I'm sure he doesn't have a problem with me saying this. His swing, at least off the tee box, is what's the word I'm looking for here? It's God, I don't want to say abnormal. Abnormal is not the word. It's unorthodox.
Unorthodox,
His swing is unorthodox, but man, he's just steady.
I mean, there's so many golfers like that. I saw Dwayne Wade. Go watch the video if you haven't seen it. Dwayne Wade made a hole-in-one. Some golf course. I don't know. It looked like Florida. But he has the worst swing I've ever seen in my life.
Really? Worse than Charles Barkley?
No, not worse than Charles Barkley. But it's really bad. Very bad. And he made a hole-in-one. So that just goes to show you that golf is a crazy sport. Crazy sport.
Well, Dwayne Wade's hole-in-one and Jon Meoli's appearance on the Bat Around today is brought to you by the Green Turtle Canton Crossing, which is celebrating a grand opening tomorrow. Ravens Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail will be there from 1 to 2 p.m., showing off his ring and taking pictures with fans as the Ravens take on the Cleveland Browns. Plus, great specials, and watch the games all day long at the new Green Turtle at Canton Crossing. When we come back in, we'll close things out with Take to Rake and our final O's and Ravens thoughts. That's next on the Bat Around.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, heating and air conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Maryland drivers, did you know you can save up to 77% on tolls with an Easy Pass Maryland discount plan? That's right, 77%. It's never been easier. Pick the plan that's right for you at driveezmd.com. We'll keep you moving.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to pressboxonline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of Pressbox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 3rd at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports. And don't forget, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand. Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
The latest edition of Pressbox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
And now it is me that is struggling to get my headphones on. I went to put them on and realized my hat was sitting on the top of my head. Like
I was still laughing at the comment before that.
In a, yeah. Yeah, but anyway, weird deal with the headphones for both of us today for some reason. It's been a fun show and it's been a fast show. You know, lots to talk about. It's been fun. What we haven't even talked about. The Orioles on Thursday night, while they were in the process of clinching the American League East, announced on the video screen that they had agreed to a 30-year lease agreement with the Maryland Stadium Authority for Camden Yards to keep the Orioles here for the next 30 years and beyond. There's also 2 different 5-year extensions that they can activate after the 30-year period is up. And then we find out yesterday that they don't actually have an agreement. They have a memorandum on agreement.
Yeah.
So it's like when you see somebody wearing a diamond ring, and you're like, oh, you're engaged. No, we're engaged to be engaged. It's like that.
Right.
The Orioles are engaged to be engaged to the city of Baltimore for some reason. It's like, why would you put that out there if you don't actually have the agreement signed?
Yeah,
you just agreed that.
It's a little weird.
You've talked out terms and been like, yeah, that sounds good.
But this is so Orioles, though. That's not the right way to put it. It's so John Angelos and what he's done in the past few weeks and months for the Orioles is just do odd things that don't make a lot of sense. By the way, my favorite part of this was they showed Wes Moore, the governor, and every time you see Wes Moore, he's like pumping his fist and like smiling. He never stops smiling, that guy. Like I was at I've been to 3 or 4 sports games already this year that Wes Moore shows up at. It's very weird. Like, Wes Moore always shows up anyway, he was there, I guess, because that's part of the agreement. But he's pumping his fist and doing his thing. And then we find out that it's not even like an actual agreement yet. It's just a memorandum. It's a hypothetical agreement.
It's an agreement to potentially agree to the agreement.
Well, it's not hypothetical is not the word, but it's a tentative agreement. It hasn't actually been signed yet.
It's going to happen, but they made it seem like it was a done deal, and it's not.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Cool. John Angelos, I will say, they showed him on camera again with Wes Moore. He looked very relieved. Like, he looked like, wow, this has finally happened. But I don't now. It's like, okay, it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened.
Doused with champagne and beer in the clubhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think the team actually likes him?
I don't know, but I can say that there's definitely members of the team who have seen what's happened in the news and seen the Kevin Brown situation for one. There's no way they're not noticing these things.
Yeah.
There's just no way. That's what I can say.
To me, I looked at that and I'm like, there's always that one guy in a group of friends that you tolerate. You don't really like him, but you don't hate him. But then when you get like super drunk, you're like, yeah, get in here. You know what I mean? And I think that's Jon Angelos. I think he's like, yeah, get in here, buddy. You're part of this too. Like, I think that's who he is. You know?
I don't think there's ever been a better explanation. That's spot on.
Yeah.
That hits the nail on the head for that, because that is exactly what it felt like to me. Like, oh yeah, you're here too. You're
get in here.
Like,
you own the team. Get in here, buddy.
let's appease the owner.
Yeah, like he's the guy that they little buddy.
Again, people have to know that players notice things. Mm-hmm. When the Kevin Brown situation went down, they knew that. Every one of them read the articles. Yeah. Every one of them saw this.
I don't know if they read the articles, but I know that they saw it. They knew what was going on.
They knew what was going on, and they knew the root cause of it. So, to me, it's unavoidable if you're the owner of the team to kind of... And I would say, for the majority of owners of every team, I would say most players don't want to be friends with them or be even friendly with them at all. I don't think that's generally the case. Like, even though Steve Bisciotti is generally regarded as a great owner and everyone loves him, I don't think Lamar Jackson's going out of his way to be best friends with Steve Bisciotti. I just don't think that's going to be the case for most guys.
So yeah. Until they win a Super Bowl, then I'll start pouring champagne over his head.
Yeah, there you go.
That's just what it was like. Hey, little buddy,
get the beer bong out.
Get in here. Get in here, you. Let's cover you in alcohol, indoctrinate you into our society.
And they probably feel the same way about Mike Elias. Like, the players have to know what Mike Elias has done, but nobody really wants to be friends with Mike Elias. As a player,
I can see that, especially after the comments he made last year, and then heading into this year, and.
There was I can't remember, Astro Bowl, I think the book was detailing how the GM player relationships work, and it's very distant from what I understand.
Yeah,
like they're there on a business for business reasons only. Like, if you want to talk to a player as a GM, you're only coming to him if he's DFA'd, he's cut, he's traded, whatever.
I imagine it's like me with the CEO at my mortgage company. I've never met him. He hired me. I'm being commissioned to do a job for them, and he asked about me once a week or two ago, and that was about it. You know what I mean? I imagine it's a similar type of relationship.
That sounds exactly right.
You know, and then if I become like this top producer, I'll go play golf with them sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
I imagine it's a similar type of relationship there. moving on. Take to Rake. Take to Rake brought to you by PressBox's Project Game Day, which is the place to be after this and every Ravens game this season. Glenn Clark and Rita Hubbard will react live to every game, offering their truly uncensored opinions about the team's decisions and results in each game. Plus, they'll be joined by some very special guests during the year, and you can chime in live during each show as well. Watch the shows live at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, and check Glenn Clark Radio or the NFL Chick on Twitter for a Zoom link, or X, for a Zoom link that will allow you to be a part of the show. So join Glenn, Rita, and their special guest Femi Ayambadejo tomorrow after Ravens-Browns. Project Game Day is brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Take to Rake. You took Aaron Hicks. I took Gunnar Henderson.
Can't imagine I won.
Nobody won.
Nobody won.
Nobody won. Aaron Hicks, his slash line, he had one hit for the week. Slash line 083, but with a 353 on base percentage because he had 5 walks.
Wow.
An 083 slugging percentage, 436 OPS, a 111 batting average on balls in play. Gunnar Henderson, a little bit more successful, I guess, where Hicks went 1 for 12. Henderson was 3 for 19. He had a 158, 238, 316, 554 slash line with a 182 BABIP, batting average on balls in play. 1 home run, 1 ribeye steak, and 2 walks. Nobody won because they were both not good this week. What I will say, though, is I get to pick first this week because Henderson was at least better than Hicks.
Yeah,
not by much, but at least better than Hicks. Whereas last week, Adley and O'Hearn were equally phenomenal.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So let's talk about this real quick. Because we've got 2 games left and the Orioles really aren't trying at this point. I mean, they've got to win 2 and the Dodgers have to lose 2 for the Orioles to have the second best record in baseball. With that in mind, you're not going to get a representative lineup each of the next 2 days. The Orioles don't play again until next Saturday. I'm going to be out of town next Saturday. We don't know who all the teams are that are in the playoffs right now. We know who, a good bit of them, and we have a good estimation of who they're going to be, but we don't really know.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're each going to pick an Orioles player, and then we're each going to pick a player from the teams that are currently that we know are in the playoffs but don't have a bye, right? So what we're looking at is Tampa Bay, the Phillies, the Twins, the Brewers, and is that it? That's it.
I think so.
It's Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, Twins, Brewers, and Orioles as far as because the Orioles have 2 games left. So the thing here is the playoff teams that we pick, the players from the playoff teams, those don't start until the playoffs start, right? So it's take to Rake for the next 2 days for the Orioles, and then we each pick a player from the teams that we know are in the playoffs that start this coming week.
Okay,
make sense to you?
Believe so.
Okay, so for my Orioles pick, because I know he's going to play, I'm taking Ryan Mountcastle. They want him to get at bats today and tomorrow to be ready for the postseason. So I'm taking Ryan Mountcastle. Who you got for the Orioles?
The other Ryan O'Hearn.
Ryan O'Hearn.
Back to the well.
You think they're both going to play both days?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to rest Adley one day. I don't know. Yeah, sure. Why not?
I'm giving you an opportunity to rescind and pick again because O'Hearn's been scuffling and they may want to give him time off.
It's a good point. It's fair.
What a guy I am.
What a guy. I don't know. I don't really have confidence in anyone with 2 games and
Heston Kjerstad, Jordan Westburg.
Sure, you know what? I'll go with Heston Kjerstad. Why not? We'll throw it out there for Heston Kjerstad.
I gave you an opportunity to rescind, and I was
thinking about Santander, but then Santander might not play
He's
both days.
Play today.
Yeah,
he probably won't play tomorrow.
It's hard right now because we just don't know what the lineups are going to look like. So
guys that we know we're going to play: Mountcastle, Kjerstad. I think those are safe picks. So you're writing them down. I'm taking Mountcastle. You're taking Kjerstad. It's going to be your responsibility to figure this stuff out because I'm not going to be here next week. You can call me though for the segment because I'm just hanging out with my buddies out of town, so I'll be around. Now, Twins, Phillies, Brewers, Twins. Because I'm pretty sure you won the regular season, I'll let you pick first.
I'm going to go. I got to make sure that the people I'm looking at are playing because to be honest, I do not pay as much attention to every team as I do with the Orioles. So let me just make sure here. And let me look at some recent numbers. Well, that's not great.
We wanted to get out of here around noon.
Bryce Harper. I'm picking Bryce Harper.
That's who I was going to pick.
I was looking at the last 5 games number for him. They were not great. But
so you're taking Bryce Harper. I am going to take...
Actually, I'm going to let you have Bryce Harper. I'm changing my pick. I'm going to go with Mookie Betts.
The Dodgers have a first-round bye, idiot.
Oh, right. I can't pick that. Okay, never mind. Back to Bryce Harper being my pick.
You just all sorts of cheating right now.
Nah.
You're taking Bryce Harper.
I was scheming.
Yandy Diaz.
Yandy Diaz.
I'm going to take Yandy Diaz. All right. Today's show has been brought to you by the Tyus Bowser Show, which is back for Season 3. Tyus and his special guests will join Glenn and Rita all over town throughout the season, giving you the chance to get the inside scoop and rub elbows with your favorite players. The Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of PressBox and Great Eights memorabilia and is brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. For more information, visit PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. The next Tyus Bowser Show is this Tuesday, October 3rd, at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. I am not going to be here for the Orioles' first postseason game, first home postseason game in 9 years. I'm not going to be here next Saturday. Really, really need the Orioles to win the division series so that I can be here the following week to talk about them being in the ALCS. So go O's. The Baltimore Orioles, guys, they are the American League East division champions, the number 1 seed in the American League East, in the American League, 100-win season, most wins of my lifetime, most wins in 43 years. Orioles, they're doing it. They're getting the job done. Going to be an exciting postseason. Thank you to Santa Fan Charles for another excellent segment. Thank you to Jon Meoli. Always awesome getting a chance to talk with John. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. And thank you to all of our listeners. Without you, we certainly don't have a show. Big weekend here with the Ravens playing, the Orioles making the postseason, making it into getting the first round bye. Going to be an awesome time. Ravens' final thoughts, don't have them. They sucked last week. Hopefully they don't suck tomorrow. Until